Everybody, welcome into the 2021-2022 Ivy League Basketball Media Day on the men's side. I'm Dallin Cuff, ESPN broadcaster. Great to be with you and finally running this back. I'm sure for all of you coaches and players, it's been a long wait, but we are on the precipice of another season and excited to get things going. Just so you know, obviously in the fall seasons, things have gone very well. 15 nationally ranked teams across 7 sports. We're hoping for the same thing as we move into the winter sports in the Ivy League. If you want to check out more about those fall sports, go to ivyleague.com. In terms of this year, in terms of broadcast, as I mentioned, I work for ESPN. We will be broadcasting 6 linear games on ESPN family of networks, culminating in the championships March 11th through the 13th this year at Harvard, both the men's and women's events there. I'll be fortunate enough to call some of the games in the regular season and the tournament, so looking forward to that, to say the least. Obviously, regional sports networks such as SNY, Nesson up in Boston and New England, and NBC Sports Philadelphia will be carrying local games. So a lot of coverage of this league as it makes its return. And of course, every game, home game, is available on ESPN Plus, and you can get that with a great bundle with Disney and Disney Plus and Hulu. And I will shill for the company right there, $13.99, great value. This is a great season. I think we're all excited to get back in the swing of things. 7 of the league's 2019-2020 All Ivy Award winners and All Ivy team members are back, highlighted by first team selections Noah Kirkwood from Harvard, Yale's Azar Swain, as well as others. And it's going to be a great year, to say the least. This entire program is being recorded. It'll be available on the league's YouTube channel later today. If you'd like a recording sent to you directly, please contact JJ Klein, the Ivy League office's men's basketball communications contact at jj@ivyleague.com. A note to all the media members on the call: once we get the coaches here, we'll start with Brown and their players in just a moment. To ask a question, please use the raise hand function located at the bottom of your screen. We will share a reminder on this call as we proceed. All right, no further ado, let's bring in the Brown guys, led by Mike Martin, entering his 10th year at the helm of Brown, coming off their best campaign during his tenure, 15-12, 8-6 in league play, tied for 4th overall in the conference. He's joined by Tannewall, 2-time second team All Ivy League selection, and the reigning Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, Jalen Gainey, also joins us. And to start things off, Mike, if you would just give us kind of your general opening comments as you're excited, and I'm sure, to get the season going.
Yes, Dallin, it's great to see you. Thanks for being with us. Our league is so fortunate to have you doing all the great work you do for our league and men's basketball. It's awesome to be here and to get ready and prepare for, what we think is going to be a great season. Really fortunate that we have these 2 guys joining us here today, and more importantly, they'll be joining us on the court all year long. I think they're everything we want in a student athlete. Tannewall, Jalen Gainey, and we're gonna build everything. We're gonna continue to do everything we do with these guys at the forefront and at the center. Not to say we don't have other really talented players, because we do, but these guys have experience. They're incredibly talented, and they're gonna anchor our team in every way. So looking forward to seeing where we stack up. We'll have some closed door scrimmages here in the next few weeks before we open up on November 9th. Really think it's an aggressive and challenging non-league schedule, but that was done with a purpose, because we think this team can handle it. And we want to chase an Ivy League championship. We expect to be right there. And thanks again for being with us, Dallin, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate the kind words, as always. In terms of, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. For Tannewall and Jalen, if you could go, and Jalen, maybe you start first. Just for our sense, what have the last 18 months been like for you? And what is it like now back on campus with the full complement of guys in practice? Jalen, if you could go first.
Yeah. Last 18 months have been real good for me. With COVID and everything, we took that as like an opportunity to get better. We didn't see it as like a setback or anything. We stayed in the gym. So for me, it's just been great, because it helped me with my personal development, athleticism, physical fitness. Being in school, being in classes is great too. Seeing everybody, all the faces, being in the classroom, it's been real good. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it like Jalen said, it's been, it's a lot of good moments, take away from it, just a little pause from COVID, but, it was definitely tough, especially, last year, just watching other college guys play and, obviously our season got canceled, as we all know. So that was probably, the hard part about it, but it was, like Jalen said, it was good to kind of, reset a little bit, let your bodies recover. But of course, if I can go back, definitely would rather, play, but.
I'm sure about that. How long did it take you guys, and Tom, maybe you go first, to get your timing back and get comfortable again, just playing full court, full speed?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, we kind of played a little bit over the summer, pick up when we could, when with Brown regulations kind of eased up a little bit. So obviously it took us a little bit to get back into it. We're at the point right now where, we've been playing against each other for forever, it feels like. So, it kind of gets a little feisty in the gym a little bit. So I think we're ready to, finally compete against someone else soon. So, we're still getting into that. I don't know where we're at yet, but, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was.
Go ahead, Jalen.
Yeah, it was a pretty. It wasn't a bad transition. I think it went real smoothly because, like, over the summer, like T was saying, we worked out hard. We pretty much stayed conditioned and played. So when it got to the court, it pretty much transitioned real smoothly, and we kind of picked it up back on track where we left off. And so we're just ready to play other people now.
Awesome. Mike, you mentioned the difficult schedule after starting the season November 9th. You guys will go play down at Chapel Hill November 12th. Against UNC, you'll play Maryland, you'll go to the Paradise Jam, you open with Creighton. What was the thinking behind this difficult schedule? I know you mentioned you want to compete for an Ivy championship, coming off the layoff. What was the thinking about going right at some of the country's biggest teams?
Yeah, well, obviously sometimes dates are, not every date is available. And, when we want to go out and play opponents like North Carolina and Maryland, in a lot of ways, we have to see what dates fit for them. So obviously with Carolina, it's right out of the gate. We're fortunate to be in the Paradise Jam, which is an MTE that, most MTEs are early November, early in the season. There was a few different thoughts down. We thought that this team was ready. We thought this team, we think it's our most talented team, certainly has the most depth of any roster that I've ever, had here at Brown. And so we thought we could compete. And we also thought it was necessary, if we want to win an Ivy League championship, to put ourselves in this type of position in the non-conference. I also thought after our season was canceled, these guys deserve it, right? They deserve an opportunity to play in St. Thomas in a Paradise Jam against Creighton and all the other really good teams down there. They deserved an opportunity to play, on national TV against Carolina and against Maryland. And, obviously we have a ton of other really good opponents here in the Northeast that we'll challenge ourselves against. But those were the reasons. When we're in Chapel Hill, November 12th, ask me how happy I am about scheduling them, but these guys will compete. I know that, and they'll be ready to go.
I might ask you about that right before you tip off. I think I'll be calling that game. And we're going to start the questions right now. If you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function, and we'll start off with Richard Kent with the first question. Richard, go ahead.
Mike, Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops. How are you?
I'm well, Richard. Thanks for joining us.
Can you speak a bit, Mike, about the new Ivy scheduling format and how it might impact your preparation for league games?
Yes, it's a good question. For those that don't know, we go from an 8-week schedule to basically a 10-week schedule, and we start right away January 2nd at the Palestra. Obviously for traditionalists, there's still the Friday, Saturday back-to-back, but there's a lot of single game weekends. I just think that the more we could space out the schedule, the better for the student athletes and, recovery and for them to be fresh. I also think, traditionally we've always come off 6 straight back-to-backs, going into another back-to-back in the Ivy tournament, going into the NCAA tournament. Theoretically, our league champion, our representative in the NCAA tournament should be a little bit more fresh going in, because they're not coming off so many back-to-backs. So I think I'm looking forward to it. Don't really know what to expect. Don't think it'll change much as far as what we do and how we prepare. We've always, tried to really focus in one game at a time. And that means for a really quick turnaround on Saturday morning for that night's opponent. But I'm anxious to see kind of what the new challenges present of this new schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. If you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. I'll pose the same question to the players, actually. Jalen, maybe you go first. What are your thoughts on having a different schedule, not playing the back-to-backs all the time?
I feel like the schedule will be a lot better for like student athletes and like all my teammates. I like it. I personally like it. I feel like it gives us more time to recover, more time to prepare for other teams, and like from like a student standpoint, gives us more time to like study. Get like school stuff out the way. So I think it'll be real good.
Yeah, to follow what Jalen said, back to backs kind of, they obviously do numbers to your body, especially, in the second game. But I don't know, it's weird like playing one game a week to me, like I know there's some spans during the season where like that's the case, which is, I don't know, like obviously as a basketball player, as an athlete, you want to play as many games as you can and everything. So like I think there's one game we have like a Sunday game and then we don't play till like next Monday or something like that, obviously. But it's cool, I appreciate the Ivy League, switching it up, seeing what works best for us. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, I remember those travel partner games used to feel like 10 weeks went between the one game a week, but I'm sure you guys will adjust accordingly. I have another question coming from Robert Brown. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, hi, Coach. Couple questions. One is, who are you looking to replace Brandon and Zach in the lineup this year? And also looking at the roster, a lot of the forwards are freshmen and sophomores who haven't had much experience or any experience at the collegiate level. Are you looking to be a little bit smaller at the start of the year as those guys get experience?
Yeah, Rob, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'll address your first question about Brandon and Zach. Obviously, those guys were so great for us over the course of their careers and really provided, exemplary leadership and work ethic to our program, helped us, get to where we're at right now, where we think we can win an Ivy League championship. We've got a lot of candidates. We've got some returning veterans, Dan Friday, Perry Cowan, Josh Watts, who have all played, meaningful minutes as freshmen. We have some incoming transfers, Paxton Wojcik from Loyola Chicago, Noah Marin from Skidmore, who are both ready to step on the court and play. And then we've got a couple of freshman and sophomore classes, with new talent and new guards that, we think will more than, hopefully make up for whatever void we're missing. This team is going to, the strength is certainly our, when you look on paper, is our front court because of the experience. We have two all Ivy guys right here in Jalen and Tamanon. We have David Mitchell, who's a senior and has started games for us and been a key piece in all, his years. We've got some really talented newcomers in the front court as well. And can't wait for, all of our fans and everybody to see them. I don't think we'll be small. I think we'll be, big, at least as it pertains to our program and relative to the league. And maybe not big in terms of height, but length and physicality. I think that's a huge strength of this team. We know we have to be great defensively. I expect us to be outstanding, rebounding. When you talk about having these two guys leading our front court and David as well. But our guards are big too. So, we've got to find a way to take care of the ball, make shots, and be efficient on offense. But when it comes to defense and rebounding, we should be terrific in those areas.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. If you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. Mike, you mentioned a couple of your transfers. Your program, more than most in this league, we're active in the transfer portal. Given the waiver, you think you're going to be more active going forward? What's your approach to the transfer portal? Or was that more of this year trying to bring in some more experience given the situation?
We're going to continue to go wherever we have to find great players and great student athletes for Brown University. I think, with immediate eligibility, it helps in some ways overcome some of the semester policies, if you will, that our institution has. If in the past, if people had to sit out, it impacts their eligibility from how many semesters can you be at Brown standpoint. With Paxton and Noah, obviously Paxton is eligible right away, coming from a Sweet 16 program and playing, for one of the best coaches in the country in Porter Moser at Loyola. He's coming in ready to play right away and ready to contribute. He's got great habits, great leadership skills, outstanding work ethic. Noah did sit out, right? So if that 1920 season, he sat out and practiced with us. So we kind of knew what we had with Noah throughout the last, couple of years. But our fans and the rest of the league, I think, will be really excited to see what he can do. He's big, he's long, he's a really good playmaker, he's an outstanding cutter, and he's another physical wing that I think will help us, be what we have to be defensively and on the glass. So, we'll see, Dallin. We're going to continue to build our team through recruiting outstanding high school student athletes, but if we can find the right pieces, in the college ranks, we'll explore every opportunity.
Got you. Next question is Bill Koch from the Providence Journal. Go ahead, Bill.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Bill.
Mike, I just wanted to ask, 5 different schools got first place votes, obviously, in the Ivy League preseason poll. I wonder what that says to you about what we should expect in terms of competitiveness in the league this year.
Well, I think the league's competitive every year, and I think that this year will be no different. There's 8 incredible institutions, that have commitments from their universities to be good in men's basketball. I think the coaches throughout the league do an outstanding job, and obviously we're recruiting really talented student athletes who are coachable and want to work hard and want to compete. So I think the league will be competitive. As far as the poll, it's probably because we didn't play last year and there's just a lot of uncertainty. Like if you ask coaches in the league, and coaches don't vote, like in most conferences in the Ivy League, we don't vote on the preseason poll. But if you ask coaches, there's probably a lot of uncertainty throughout the league. Like I know what we have, but I'm not necessarily certain what a lot of other people in the league have beyond their seniors and juniors because we haven't seen them. So I think it's going to be a unique year. I think it's going to be highly competitive, and I'm just happy that we have the guys we have.
And for T and for Jalen, just as players, when you see, that sort of expected parity in the league, so many people expecting 5 or 6 different teams to contend for a league title. What does that say to you guys about the challenge you're going to face every night?
Yeah, the league's been great for, since I got here my freshman year. I think there was one point actually where I think we're one of the conferences that led the nation in marginal wins in terms of the win point differential was really extremely small. So that just speaks on, the toughness of our league, how now every team is extremely good and, you can't take, quote unquote days off and, light games and stuff like that. So, I'm just excited to play finally. There'll be a lot of tough games and hopefully, Brown's winning most of them, if not all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Another question from Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead again, Richard.
Mike, you've been in the league for a while and you were at Penn previously. Can you talk about how the league has changed and evolved since you've been with the league, and maybe the power base has shifted a bit from Princeton and Penn over to Yale and Harvard, and why do you think that has been?
Well, I certainly, not to take anything away from Yale and Harvard, but I would not say it's gone away from Penn and Princeton, because I think both of those programs are going to be really good again this year, and obviously have great tradition, great history, great programs, and they're outstanding institutions. I just think going back to when I was a student athlete to now, the progress the league has made has been significant. The talent level continues to get better. The athleticism, plays above the rim, and the pace, and it's really strong. And not to say that folks that played in my day couldn't be successful in the league now, but it's just different. It's I don't know that I know that I'd be really struggling with keeping up with some of the athletes that we have on our team and in our league if I was still playing today. But I think it's a commitment from the 8 institutions, Richard. I think it's a brand that continues to get stronger. If you want to play basketball at the highest level and receive the best education there is, you should look really strongly at an Ivy League school, and makes it really challenging. Makes for some sleepless nights as a coach. But I think obviously there's programs that have won the league and have tradition. There's programs like us that haven't, and we haven't done it, and we have a lot to prove. But man, I think we're ready. And I'm sure there's other programs throughout the league that feel that way too.
Certainly Brown is getting a tremendous amount of respect this year.
Yeah, we want to earn more, and I appreciate the respect that you give us.
Thank you.
And last question for Mike and Tamanong and Jalen will come from Robert Brown, back to you from Ivy Hoops Online.
Great, thanks. For Tamaning, if you could just talk about going through the transfer portal last year and your decision to come back to Brown, and as opposed to taking your talents to a high major. And for Jalen, I had read that you sat out the Brown-White scrimmage with a hamstring injury. What's the status of that, and do you have any concerns about that lingering through the season?
When I was in the portal, of course, the Ivy League didn't announce yet that fifth year grad students was an option. Obviously, of course, I wanted to play another year of basketball. So that's initially why I put my name in the portal. And obviously, I was actually roommates with this guy and David Mitchell. So once they announced, Ivy League announced that, fifth years can happen, they were in my ear all the time talking about, like, let's make this run, let's do it, and of course I wanted to start off something, that I finished, and bringing a banner here would be, the best thing I feel like I do in my career, basketball wise. So since 1986, we never won an Ivy League championship. So that was really what went into it. Just being able to leave here and say, I did something, and being able to point to a banner in that gym. So that was the main reason of coming back.
Yeah, and for the hamstring injury, I did sit out the scrimmage, but right now recovery has been well. I've been practicing this week. Hamstring feels good. I've been able to get up and down the court. So for as far as the season goes, I don't think it'll be an issue, especially with like our athletic training and coaches. They've been, taking it slow with me and just making sure I'm ready.
Okay, thanks, guys.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Good luck as you start the season, and I'll see you down at Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And we'll be transitioning to Columbia here in just a moment. And Jim Ingles is in from Columbia, entering his 6th year as the head coach there. He'll be joined momentarily by seniors Ike Nweke and Luke Bolster, grad student Luke Bolster. As they're getting set to come on, Jim, just start off with your thoughts as you're about to embark on another season at Columbia.
No, it's just been really good to get back on the court with the guys. Obviously with all the stuff that's happened over the last 18, 19 months, it's just been good to be able to get into some normalcy with what the routines are for our guys and with the program. And, just excited to we have a couple scrimmages coming up and getting excited for the season.
Jim, I would ask every coach this. I don't know if I'll have a chance to do it. I just think it's interesting. What did you focus on in the time off? Where do you think you improved as a coach in that time where you weren't actually able to coach your team day in and day out?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It was weird because there was so many things that your schedule is so regimented, and when the season was sort of taken away, I'm sure this is what everybody went through when everything they do with all different careers, but being in your house and sort of being sequestered and having the family around, and as a coach you go at this. I've been doing this for over 30 years, so it was great just to spend some time with my family, honestly. And then from a career development standpoint, a lot of people sort of did some really good things. There was a lot of online clinics. A lot of people put together certain things that we could sort of interact with different people through Zoom. And it was just a lot of, sort of networking along those lines. So you would talk to different people. And I think that's where Zoom became very, very functional and very impactful for some of the things that we were trying, just to learn different things. So it was pretty good that way.
Now on with Columbia head coach Jim Ingles. Senior Ike Nweke has joined us as well. And Luke Bolster, grad student, will be joining momentarily. If you have a question, we lower all hands at the end of each session of each team. So you have a question now for coach or the players, please raise your hand again. Jim, what has practice been like the first couple of weeks as you guys have gotten back into it? How would you describe it?
It's like riding a bike, man. It's normal, it's been doing back into our normal routine, and the guys have been, we have a bunch of new guys, so we've been teaching a lot of different things, and but it's just been good to, the competition factor and just all the little things that come with practice. And the guys have really responded extremely positively. I know they're really excited. We've talked about the opportunities and just the gratefulness that, you never know with basketball, right? Basketball is such a huge part of our lives. It got taken away from us last year, and you have to take advantage of the moments that you're given. So the guys have been very, very good with that sort of thought and that sort of attitude. So, but it's been, just trying to learn the different offenses and defenses and trying to understand techniques. And, it's just been getting together and doing all the things that you normally do.
Open up for questions now. Remember, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function. We're going to go to Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops Online. Richard, kick us off. Thank you.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Richard?
Jim, can you talk a bit about the new Ivy schedule format and how it might impact your preparation for league games?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's going to be a great, I personally, from my own personal standpoint, the weekends, we do still have the tradition of having some weekends, but sort of being able to expand and to alleviate some of I feel like the season was so compacted with some of the weekend stuff. So I think from a preparation standpoint, it sort of gives us the opportunity to, if you only have one game in a week, I think it allows you to really prep, and it allows you to do some different things that would allow the guys to recover. And then not having the Saturday sample to it is to me, it's, as an older man now, as I become older, it's tough on the coaches, the player. Everybody talks about how tough it is on the players. It's tough on the coaches. You're up for you're basically up from, you never sleep as a coach anyway, but you literally don't sleep for all weekend. So I think it alleviates some of that stress for us as well, so we can have some more time to prep for the next opponent.
Thank you.
Ike, what are your thoughts on the changing schedule and having a little more time off, or more practice time, I would assume, during these longer weeks?
Yeah, just kind of to echo off of Coach, I honestly kind of like it as well. Just giving you that extra day to prepare a little bit more, get the scout right a little bit more, and just to rest the body a little bit. Having games on Fridays and Saturdays, 2 years in a row now. Just seeing that the fatigue level can kind of go up throughout the course of the season, because we have a long season, play 30 game season usually, and you're playing every team Friday, Saturday, and sometimes you might have to travel, and that's a whole other element to it. So I'd say being able to hone in on the specific opponent for that whole week or for however long that we may get, I feel like we could definitely benefit, because it just eliminates the aspect of getting more tired, obviously, just by expanding the schedule. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to for sure.
Good stuff. I feel like we went about 3 straight years, Harvard to Dartmouth, with some sort of pile up or snowstorm, and got in either school at 4 a.m. So it doesn't really help either. My game didn't help us either, but that's a whole side note. Let's get to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online. Robert, you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, hi, Coach. It looks like about four-fifths of the starting lineup has graduated. Who are you looking to take charge this year to kind of fill those roles? And also, it looks like there's a bit of newness to the coaching staff. If you could talk about the new people who've arrived since the season ended in 2020.
Yeah, it's just a function of what happens with the seasons, right? Your team changes, and so we're just in a cycle where we do have so many new guys with the sophomore class. They're really considered freshmen as far as I'm concerned, even from an academic perspective, because last year they weren't really in class. So that's the first year they've been in a classroom setting with their classmates. So there's a lot of adjustment there. And having Luke Bolster back, Luke will be the only senior probably in the history of Columbia basketball to be a grad transfer. So that's a little trivia question for anybody who wants to use that as they go forward. So it's great to have Luke back and his experience. So, and then with the staff, it's just the same thing. We've had some guys move on to different places, and you just make the necessary changes, put together the best staff possible for your program, and guys have been doing a great job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. Luke, thanks for joining us. And I'll actually just going off of what Coach just said and the question, what's it like to be kind of one of the elder statesmen and not just deal with incorporating freshmen, but really freshmen and sophomores that have not played? How do you go about that role as a leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the biggest thing is just trying to get guys to understand the bigger picture. Especially with so many new guys, the focus guys can get really, hyper focused on, I need this many minutes. I need this stat next to my name. Like just trying to remind guys that, this is really, it's a 4-year process. Even the season, it's like a 30-game process. So you can't get caught up in the little things. Obviously you have to maintain a focus on the details and practice and stuff. But the idea is that you're here to be a part of Columbia. You're here to be a part of something larger than yourself. So just reminding, usually with a typical incoming class, it's fewer guys that have to be reminded of that. But I would say that, that's been one of my main focuses coming in, just having been here for a long time. I've done my 4 years. This is my 5th year now. So I understand what the coaches want. I understand, how what a good practice looks like, what a good rep looks like. And so I can really give guys that info. And that way it doesn't have to come from the coaches every time. There can be an element of players leading players, which coach always preaches. That's something that he wants and really values.
If you want to ask a question to Jim Ingles, Ike Nweke, or Luke Bolster, please use the raise hand function. Ike, you had a good sophomore year, second league in offensive rebounds, but obviously we haven't seen you play in quite some time. How would you describe your game? How have you developed in that time off?
I kind of used the COVID year just to kind of hone in on a lot of my skills that I kind of already did well and kind of build outward. So primarily, I pretty much worked on like rebounding out of my position. Pretty much, I worked on kind of scoring not only the low post but the mid post as well, and just trying to like become like an all around and well balanced player. That was one thing that I feel like was just the next step in my game. Just trying to like add as many layers to like kind of create a fuller picture and kind of like round out my game a little bit. So just being able to like be in multiple spots and being able to like still do everything that I did well my sophomore year and build off of that, but just like moving outward and kind of like seeing how what I did there and what made me successful and like how I can use what made me successful in different spots. So hopefully I'll be able to do that this season. So I know that I will be able, I know that I'll be ready. Yeah.
Thank you, Ike. If you want to ask a question to any one of the players or coach, please use the raise hand function. We'll go back to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online now. Robert?
Oh, hi, this is for Ike and Luke. Kind of building on that idea of leadership. There have been so many close games, 1 or 2 possessions that have not gone your way the last few years. As team leaders, what do you feel you've got to do to kind of get you guys over the hump so that you're on the right end of those decisions?
I think that the biggest thing is understanding, different moments throughout the game. We had my sophomore year, we had a team slogan, winning time. And that was sort of when we talked, that was a moment in the game where we, as a team, sort of referenced the fact that this is where the win happens. It's not necessarily at the buzzer. It's not necessarily, with 2 minutes left. It could be that second media in the second half where we've just gone on a little bit of a run and now sustaining it through the end of the game. That's winning time. So, that last 8 minutes or that last, that second half. So the idea that little things build into wins. It's not, the game isn't won right at the end. So I would say, maintaining that perspective. And, Ike and I, obviously we've been in a lot of close games. And so we'll be able to talk guys through and sort of bring a level headedness to it, because that result, it doesn't always come, it doesn't always fall your way, but the idea is that if you're doing things the right way, that those wins will come. So reminding guys of that and, trying to maintain perspective in that, right?
Yeah, just to kind of echo Luke, the perspective that I kind of have going into this season is just knowing that everything matters and you can't really take anything for granted. I feel like that's like one thing that like a lot of people kind of learn, like even with the COVID year and everything, it's like literally at any point, at any moment, like anything can happen. And it's really up to you to like kind of take control of what is going on in that moment and kind of make it yours. And that's something that I kind of try to live by as well. And I try to tell all the freshmen and sophomores and all the team really pretty much, and even to tell myself that like, I can't really get caught up in like a certain play that happened before, and to just stay in this moment. And if I'm detailed enough in this moment, and if I'm detailed enough to try to stay focused and to obviously persevere and win the game that we want to win, I feel as though that there's no way that we can't be successful, because staying detailed in our approach and staying detailed in the way and the manner that we want to go out and execute, that's only going to be a benefit for us, and it's only going to work in our favor. So I'm really excited to see how that detail goes into play.
Robert, if you want to ask a question, use the raise hand function. Jim, you guys open up your season November 9th at Fordham, the historic Rose Hill Gym. A lot of your games are in the Northeast. Was there any difference to your approach in scheduling, given the layoff and given the relative, unfamiliarity of your team, or in terms of their experience, I should say? Was there any difference in your approach of scheduling this year?
Yeah, definitely. It's with all the COVID stuff, I was afraid to get on a plane. I didn't know if that would be something that would be, we had some things set up for the year prior that with different contract stipulations and stuff, if the games got canceled, then there's a lot of different business functions that go into it. So I wanted to keep it as local as possible. And with an entirely new team, making the travel, everybody thinks is extravagant and stuff like that. It becomes tough. These kids are under a lot of pressure from an academic perspective and also to perform on the court. So the easier the travel situation for them, having them back on campus or closer to campus, I think is just going to help them get through the year, especially with so many new kids. So, we're going to play Fordham. We're going to play at BC. And most of our other games are going to be local. I would guess you would consider local rivalries. And, obviously with the league schedule being a little bit expanded, I think that helps as well.
If you want to ask a question for Luke or Ike or Coach, please raise your hand, use the raise hand function. Coach, I have a question for you. How are you going to manage the roster size? This goes for pretty much every coach in the league is 15 to 20 guys. How do you go about managing rosters and making sure everybody is kind of staying in the collective group that maybe, may not see any time?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have 17 guys on the roster right now. We have a lot of, sometimes some stuff unfortunately is uncontrollable. So you do have guys get injured and stuff, and that sort of takes care of some of those things that you might be implying. But it's really about making sure these guys understand. We have a scrimmage coming up tomorrow, so it'll be the first time I think we'll have an opportunity as a group to really get against an opponent, and then you start to see exactly where the different strengths and weaknesses are for your team against a different team. Like you got to obviously get an idea, and you have an idea of what's going on with your own team, but until you get on a court with somebody else. So it's going to be good for our guys just to see role definition, where they see themselves, where we see them. And I think to a man, these guys have been awesome in regards to we've had excellent practices. Guys have really been pushing each other, finding different positions and different things. We've had some injuries, nothing season ending, thankfully, but we've had a lot of injuries right now. So we've been limited a little bit with our team. So we've had guys stepping into different positions, and I think that's just part of the natural progression of the season, and all that stuff starts to take care of itself as we get closer to the season.
For Ike and Luke, and Ike, maybe you go first. Obviously, Coach just mentioned you have a scrimmage tomorrow. In a regular year, you're tired of playing against each other in a regular year. Well, now this is on steroids. So, Ike, you go first. What's the feeling like going into a scrimmage tomorrow? What's that feel like?
One word I can give it is just excited, elated to be playing. I kind of lost track of the days. I think it was like 617 or something that we haven't played a game. So it's just going to be awesome. Like, just to be able to just go out there and see what we have and play against a very talented opponent. Iona is well coached. They're scrappy. They're going to try to like ruffle our feathers. But I know that all the preparation that we've kind of like put into like getting to where we are now and getting the guys ready mentally, just, having a young team means that we have to like hone in on like what they kind of like think and like how they think is going to be how they perform, and like what values and what standards that we kind of hold and uphold as a team is going to kind of show throughout the course of the game, thus throughout the course of the season. So it's just, I'm honestly really excited because I really feel like we can do some damage this year, and I'm glad to just be playing again and with a group of guys that really want it. So that's all you can really ask for.
Luke, anything to follow up there?
Yeah, I would echo everything Ike said. We've been in the gym, we've been playing each other. It's going to be really fun to have an opponent on the court and, get to play as a team rather than, against one another. So can't come soon enough.
Thanks a lot, Luke, Ike, Coach Ingles. Appreciate your time. See you guys on the court November 9th against Fordham. Thank you.
Thanks, Dal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we move to Cornell, just a reminder to everybody, we will lower the hands that were raised at the end of each coach and player session. So if you have another question now for Cornell, about to make their way to the virtual podium, if you will, please raise your hand and we'll get you in the queue and ask a question. And as we get set up with the Cornell Big Red here in just a second. And Brian Earl joins us from Cornell and heading to his 6th year at the helm of the Big Red. Kobe Dixon just joined as well. And junior Jordan Jones will be joining as well momentarily. Coach, to kick things off here, just want to kind of open it up to you for a kind of opening statement as you guys get ready to embark on a campaign.
Well, thanks for having us. It's great to do this. Good to see you. Obviously, everyone who comes on here is going to say they're excited to get back on the court, and that's coaches and players included. And so it's been a long time. It seemed like Ike Nweke counted the days up there in the 600s. Exciting is the optimal word to describe, after last year and the different things, how the Ivies handled the pandemic to finally go out and we'll play a scrimmage this weekend. To just play against somebody else is going to be exciting for us.
If you have a question for Coach, Kobe, or Jordan, please use the raise hand function. Coach, you had 4 seniors, would have been seniors, transfer out. Some are going to play at high major programs. How has that affected you guys specifically?
Yeah, I think we took some lumps the prior year to have a team last year that we thought would have been really competitive with those seniors. Once we knew that those guys were going to move on, I think our team did a really good job of coming together, the younger guys realizing that we're turning the page. And to be honest, those guys helped us a lot when we could get on the court, doing whatever they could to sort of prepare the next generation. And so they're still a part of the program. They'll be playing at multiple other places this year, all of them. We will wish them the best, but I think it says a lot about them that they were willing to help Cornell even as they're going out and playing for other opponents this year.
If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. And we will start with the questions from Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops Online. Richard?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Doing well.
Obviously, the portal hurt you to some extent. How are you able, both from an admissions perspective and a program perspective, to use the portal proactively?
Well, we're constantly recruiting. The portal has changed college basketball, and so we are in there. We're looking and recruiting out of there when we can. We've gotten a few transfers, junior college, and also a player from VMI prior to the portal. So it's a place that has changed the recruiting landscape a little bit, and I think our situation allows us to go out there and try to find guys that may fit the culture of our program. And so it is a place where you can do some background character research with your colleagues from the previous school. And we just keep our eyes open constantly to see if there's a fit there. Obviously, again, being careful with the type of player and person that we're bringing into the program, but along with our high school and junior college recruiting, we're actively looking in the portal when we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else has a question, please use the raise hand function. For Kobe and Jordan, what has this last couple of weeks been like as you guys have gotten back to practice? Does it feel like it was the pre-pandemic, or is there a level of kind of getting back up to speed? Take us through kind of what it's been like. Kobe, if you go first.
Yeah, I would say we're pretty much pre-pandemic levels right now, practice-wise. I would say there's a building excitement as our scrimmages and first game come closer, but yeah, the energy's been high, and I think we're all just ready to get out on the court.
Yeah, I think our team's just young. We got a lot of guys who have a lot to prove, and I think we're all very excited to, have that responsibility on our shoulders. And so, we're making mistakes, but at the same time, really, really positive, really, this is a marathon. So I'm excited for everyone.
Appreciate it. You guys definitely have the best backgrounds too. I want you to know that right now. I'll let you know if anybody knocks you off that podium. Let's get to the questions now. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. We'll go to Nathan Solomon from Ivy Hoops Online. Nathan.
Hey, Brian, thanks for your time today. A couple questions. First, how difficult is it for you to evaluate your talent knowing that you have 10 guys who have never played a D1 game before?
Oh man, you're depressing me, Nathan. It's difficult. We do have guys in the program, including these two, who have played some minutes for us. And so you sort of use them as a bar a little bit to see how our current players stack up against them. But, having been at this as a player in the Ivy and as a coach, you get an idea for what works when you're playing in the league and what the talent level and decision-making level and shooting level is. So it's going to be off by a certain degree, but hopefully not massively off when we're looking at the guys we're bringing into the program. And very honestly, we'll play a scrimmage this weekend, and we're going to take a lot of information away from that to see what we need to work on. The guys in practice who think they've been really doing well, we'll see if that is only against the guys behind them or if that counts on with guys at their own level. And so these next couple of weeks for us are very big in sort of calibrating where all our players are at. But we do a lot of it in recruiting where we're evaluating. These guys work hard. Last year, they did everything possible to work within Cornell's parameters to get a great season without having played anybody else. And so there's a certain amount of resilience that these guys have all shown with the past year being so difficult on them.
And in 1920, a couple of things that you talked about a lot were rebounding and three-point shooting. How do you feel that your roster can respond to flaws from 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just keep sticking with it. Obviously, Kobe was injured a little bit in as a sophomore, I guess, and we're a little smaller, and so just naturally, I think we might be able to put a little more height out on the floor to battle for rebounds. And then 3-point shooting is something these guys have worked on. I mean, it's a learned skill, and the more you practice it, the more it goes in for people. And so they've been at it for a long time. And the pandemic year, without competing, I think has given us all a chance to really develop. The coaches develop the players, and the players take the time to develop themselves in areas, including 3-point shooting, where, when you're in fierce competition amongst your non-Ivy opponents and your Ivy opponents, sometimes you'll lose sight of trying to get these guys better. And so that was maybe a benefit of the past years, that we were able to get some time without the competitiveness hanging over our heads that will come this year.
Thank you, Nathan. Remember, if you have a question for Coach Kobe or Jordan, please use the raise hand function. Next, we will go to Robert Brown from Miami Hoops Online. Robert.
Hi, Coach. Over the couple of years you've been at Cornell, players seem to have a lot of growth. Of the returning backcourt players, are there any ones in particular that you're looking to make that next leap? And also, on a bigger picture idea for you, how have you changed it with that year off? Whether it's a person, whether it's a coach, where are you now compared to the end of 2020?
I think most of the development is our guys. Jordan Jones, who played and is on the call, started a lot of the first year he was here until he got injured, and he's improved in a lot of different ways. And Greg Dolan, who's a classmate of his, is also, those guys have to take most of the credit for improving. And so we'll be looking to them, along with Dean Knoll and maybe some new faces to shore up our backcourt, which we lost our starting backcourt to grad transfer, Brian Knapp and Terrence McBride. And so that's just the nature of things. Everything moves on. And those guys, again, they weren't sitting on their couches eating potato chips over the last year. So they've done a great job of improving. As far as, the pandemic year, Cornell made it our mission to have these guys have as normal a year as possible. And we gathered everybody we could. And so we brought over 10,000 kids back to campus to have a normal year as we could. And it took a lot of money and a lot of effort. And President Pollock and Vice President Lombardi made sure that these guys had a pretty good pandemic year. And so a lot of that, we were, as coaches, out making sure that people wearing masks and socially distancing, which you get a grin from my my players on that. But it was an odd year from a personal perspective. I have younger children, so I got to be around them a lot. I was on a ski slope for the first time in my life, just catching them as they came down the mountain. And so there's a lot of good memories we got from that. And from a basketball perspective, it is a bit of a sabbatical year. I was able to watch a lot of my brother's game, who's down at VMI. I'm close with the Colgate coach, Matt Langle. And so, again, when you step back from the competition a little bit, you can sort of become a scholar of the game, which I took my time to do.
Thank you, Robert. Coach, you didn't ski though? You just were at the bottom of the hill?
No, I walked on the mountain and my knees just went, don't do it.
Probably a smart move. Let's keep the questions going. Let's go back to Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops Online. Richard.
Ryan, you first played at Princeton, I think, in '95. How does the league, if at all, look different now than it did 26 years ago?
26 years. Wow. I think from top to bottom, it's a lot more talented, more athletic. Back then, it was mostly Pennsylvania and Princeton that were dominating. There were guys that on those teams specifically Jerome Allen was a little bit before me, but Ira Bowman at Pennsylvania. Steve Goodrich I played with, went to the NBA. So there was some really high level talent. But I think there's an athleticism and a talent in the league from top to bottom that's very different. And I'll say the coaching, I'm waiting for some of these guys to move on, the other coaches, because you never get a break. And that's something that I don't want to disparage any coaches from back then, but the guys in the league that we go up against are just, I think, probably the best coaches in the country that don't get as much looks as you do in the bigger conferences. And so from Jim Ingles and Dave McLaughlin, and Coach Jones, who's been here forever, and Coach Amaker, all of them, Martin and Henderson, and it's just tough every night to go against those guys. And I have the greatest respect for them, but I think it starts there in a lot of ways.
Thank you, Richard. If you want to ask a question for Coach Earl, for Jordan, or for Kobe, please use the raise hand function. Kobe, Jordan, start with you, Kobe. How has your game developed in this time off?
I've spent a lot of time refining what I excelled at my sophomore year before the season ended. So I spent a lot of time in the post, just getting my touch around the rim right. Free throw shooting, something I also have worked on. And I guess whenever I've been playing, defense has been an emphasis for me. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been working on this offseason.
For me, I know we want to be able to shoot the ball. And so for me, a huge focus was just being able to shoot and getting as much reps and game-like reps as I could. In addition to that, taking the experience I had from that first year, started being able to realize like what shots I could get and what shots I won't get. And so playing against really good competition over the summer, and guarding, NBA or whoever it is, some really good guards, I think that helped me defensively. And then from there, just trying to apply what I already did well to kind of another level to where I can actually help this team too. So playmaking, being able to really knock down any shot on the court, and just from there, just really been working hard on all aspects of the game.
If you want to ask a question, use the raise hand function, please. A few more minutes with the guys from Cornell. Brian asked the same thing of Jim. Mike Martin alluded to it because his schedule's quite tough at the beginning of the season. Was there any difference, or how did you approach scheduling? Given the layoff, was there any difference to past years?
Yeah, I think, and I listened to Coach Ingles talk a little bit about it, that there's a fear, and we probably were doing the same thing the previous year about, can we travel this year? Because just the unknowns were out there. We were planning on doing something to get on a plane and have a few day trip down in a sunny area a few years ago. And that got canceled. And so we are mostly local, with the exception of Virginia Tech, where we'll fly down there. And so I think that caused us to be a little conservative in what we were going to do this year. And most of it had to do with travel, to try and not get these things canceled on us in the last minute, which it seems like we're somewhat in the clear, but we said that a few months ago before Delta came. And so that was the thinking behind our scheduling this year. Mostly we have to be pretty conservative about where we want to go.
Thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Kobe, Jordan, Coach Earl, you guys kick it off in 19 days and 8 hours, says your site. So enjoy that. Good luck. And we'll see you at Binghamton on November 9th.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're going to transition to Dartmouth here in just a few minutes. Again, if you have a question, please raise your hand, use the raise hand function as we will move to Dartmouth here in just momentarily. As we get set up here, as Dartmouth is joining us, again, please use the raise hand function to ask a question. As we move on with the Ivy League Media Day for men's basketball, and we'll move on to Dartmouth now. Our head coach, Dave McLaughlin, joining us in his heading into his 6th year there. Obviously, the grad student, Brendan Berry, and senior Taurus Samuels joining as well. Coach McLaughlin, just start off with your kind of opening statement as you guys get ready to toss it back up here.
Dylan, thank you. And thanks for everyone that took time to put this on. I know it's always hard to get a lot of people remotely on the same page and work smoothly. So definitely appreciate that. I think that the big thing is just excitement, right? It's so exciting to be back. It's really exciting to be in a routine. I think the past year or so, or a little more than a year, we weren't in a routine. So I think it's really nice to be in a routine. And I think it's awesome to be able to build relationships in person. One of our core values as a team is relationships. And, as much as you do that virtually and from afar, it's just so different when you can see guys every day. And I think that's awesome. And then I love to see the development of the guys. You haven't seen them in so long. So when you actually get them on the court, so I think we've had 11 practices in the last, 600 days. So when you actually see them on the court, it's great to see the competitive, how guys have grown, what the new guys are all about, and just to see how people mesh, because that's such a big part of this league or winning at any level is what is your team all about? How are guys meshing? How are guys holding each other accountable? What are the relationships in your team? And you get a really good feel of that when you're in person and you're in practice. Proud of our seniors. I think they're doing a really good job coming in and being and leading right away, leading by example, but then leading in other various ways. It's been nice to coach 9 guys I've never coached before. So that's a little different, actually being on the court with 9 individuals. And they might make a mistake. You're like, ooh, I didn't know he had that in him. Or they might make a great play. You might be, ooh, I didn't know he had that in him. So I think that's been, and we see that every day. So we have a roster now of, 18 to 20 guys. And part of the roster, the guys that haven't played all the time, this is what their progression's like. It's just a little bit like a roller coaster. So 3 guys might have had the best day, and then all of a sudden other 3 guys are having their best day the next day. So it's a constant evaluation where I think our older players are just a little more consistent. But we're excited. We want to play this year and be very detail oriented. So if you're going to say this team really pays attention to the little things, this is a tough team that likes to play together and likes to play a smart brand of basketball.
Thank you, Coach. Just a reminder, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. We lowered all hands in between each team, so please raise your hand again if you want to ask a question for Coach Brendan or Taurus. Brendan, I want to ask you, I think you may be the only guy in the league that played last year, or you're one of very, very few. You transferred and played at Temple. What was that experience like, and what do you bring back to Dartmouth?
Yeah, I know. First and foremost, it was a really cool experience to be able to play at that, like high major level. But at the same time, I'm super excited to be back. And like you said, it is kind of to my advantage that I was able to play, albeit only 16 games, a relatively shortened season. But for me, it was just a cool experience, a learning experience, but, happy to be back.
Taurus, any jealousy as he was able to play games last year?
Yeah, a little bit, but we had a lot of fun cheering him on while we were all hanging out, sitting down. So we love seeing our guy, succeed. So it was good. It was fun.
If you have a question for either of the players or coach, please use the raise hand function. For you guys, as coach just mentioned, you're going to start exhibitions here soon. Is that feel more like a real game? Does it feel different than in past years? Taurus, you go first, knowing how long it's been, particularly for you, since you really laced it up against somebody else.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun prepping for that. But one thing that I've learned as I've gotten older is just trying to take things day by day. So just especially with so many young guys, so many new guys, trying to get them, acclimated into our culture and, how we do things. Like Coach said, we're pretty detail oriented. So just making sure every day that we're coming in and trying to get everybody to be consistent. So, I'm sure when we do lace them up, at our scrimmages, those feelings will all rush into us. And then, once we get going, that'll be a lot of fun. That's kind of the consensus I'm getting on the team, is just we're just so excited to finally just start playing again, because it has been so long, like you said. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, Excitement's the only word for me. You know, I played with Taurus and the other senior guys my junior year and haven't played with them since against, you know, different competitions. So for me, it's just excitement to get back on the court and, you know, integrate the new guys and things like that, besides, you know, playing against each other in practice.
Coach, you mentioned before the exhibitions, nine new players. I mean, exhibitions are always important, and you don't really, as coaches have already alluded to, I think we all know that have been in it, you don't really necessarily know what you have until you go against somebody else. Are they even more important this year than in past years? Are they treated any differently by you, I guess I should say too?
Yeah, I think in terms of maybe a little different and maybe trying to play a little longer. So it's a scrimmage, maybe instead of playing 220s, maybe you're trying to play an extra 10, you know, just to get as much data as possible. Maybe you're prepping just a little different because you've 9 guys that have never really been through a scout. So maybe in past years, you might be a little light on the scouting, and maybe this year just a little heavier, just to create some good habits and build a foundation. So yeah, I think it's probably a little different in a lot of ways, maybe talking to the staff a little more. Hey, is there something we haven't talked about? Is there another idea we can think of? And I'd say probably the biggest thing is, as you're preparing for it, having more discussions about your roster, because there are some unknowns. So really diving into it and going from, you know, the top to the bottom or east to west, whatever way you want to look at it, and just really discussing each guy in detail.
On that note, Coach, every team in the league has about 15 to 20 guys on the roster. That's a lot of players to manage. It's a lot of personalities to manage. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so we approach that holistically. So I think you can't look at that as just developing them as players. You have to look at it, and we spent a lot of time discussing this. How are we developing these guys holistically? So how are we building relationships with them? How are we developing them on the court? How are we helping them with what they might need off the court? You know, academically, how are we developing as leaders? So that is probably our biggest job as a staff, is collectively developing holistically a roster of 20 guys.
Coach, remember, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. We'll go to a couple questions now. Jonathan Tannewall from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thanks, Dallin. Thanks, everybody. For all you guys, I guess, whoever wants to answer. What do you think this new schedule format's going to be like that, you know, I guess everybody else in college basketball is kind of used to it. But for the rhythms of the Ivy League, it's going to be pretty different.
Yeah, I'll start with that one, Jonathan, and then Taurus or B, if you guys want to jump in, feel free. I think it is different. You know, I think when you're not playing back-to-backs and you have maybe a week to prepare for one opponent rather than 2, or just a few back-to-backs. So I think that allows for a lot of development too, late in the year. So say you have a Saturday. If it was a Friday, Saturday like it has been, there's not a ton of time for development during the week. You're preparing for 2 opponents. You need to get some rest. Now I think you can see teams maybe make significant strides collectively and individually, you know, late in the season, which is hard to do, but I think the schedule allows for that.
Taurus, Brennan, either way, the thought?
Yeah, I think yeah, it's gonna be really different because those back-to-backs, you know, they definitely take a lot out of you, especially the Ivy League. We're a very competitive league, and so, you know, Friday you have a competitive game and you're going right into Saturday. So I think that you know, with the one opponent a week, or, you know, Saturday games, like, we'll be able to get our rest and be able to really prepare for those opponents that we do have. So I think there's some advantages to that for sure. So
yeah, I agree. I think you know, you kind of get into a rhythm with the Ivy League typically in the past when you get those, you know, Friday, Saturday games. And I think it'll definitely be a challenge to kind of switch to this new format. But, you know, this whole year has been challenging, so it's nothing new to us.
Gotcha. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll keep moving with the questions. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function and get in the queue. Next up, William McCormick from the Yale Daily News.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Coach. Was just curious, sort of when it comes to your Ivy League opponents, do you usually have a sense of how other teams in the league are shaping up around this time of year? And sort of how much more uncertain does the league and your perception of other teams feel because of how many new players there are without college experience?
Yeah, it's a great question, William. I don't really get a feel for teams until I start watching non-league games every year. You know, we're not playing obviously till January. So typically in November, as our league begins to play, I'm trying to watch as many many of them play non-league opponents as possible. And that's when I get my first feel. Are they doing anything different? What do the new guys look like? How are guys developed? Should we be throwing something in practice we haven't thrown in yet to prepare down the road? So, I think for me, it's usually mid-November into right before the holidays, and you usually have a good feel for everybody, or at least you've seen everybody probably 2 to 3 times before you dive into league scouting in January.
Thank you, William. And again, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. Next, we will go to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online. Robert?
Hi, Coach. You obviously have a lot of established talent that's back with Taurus and Brendan, and also Aaron Wright, who was arguably the most improved player in the league 2 years ago. But you do have a lot of big shoes to fill with Chris, James, and Ian leaving. Who are you looking to kind of take that next step to replenish the lineup?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think first and foremost, with those guys, we lost a lot of talent, but we lost a lot of experience and leadership. So I think we've talked a lot about that, is, how making sure we as a group are approaching things the right way and really paying attention to the details as much as we can. I think we've been very competitive in our front court, we kind of our front court by committee, and having Demolade, having Cam, having Nate, and Nicola, a freshman, 4 of those guys really competing. And in a short amount of time, it's seen significant growth just being on the court with those guys each day. I think our other seniors are playing well, Garrison Wade and Wes Slackert. And I think our guard depth is significant. I think we have really good depth in the backcourt in terms of guys that are old enough, strong enough that I think can play multiple guard positions. So it allows us to be a little more where we might have been checker oriented in the past, where we have to go from slot to slot. I think we could be a little more chess oriented now, where, one movement doesn't dictate another movement in our lineup. I think we can be a little more diverse that way, and different lineups and different size lineups, different skill lineups that we put on the floor.
Thank you, Robert. Again, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. For the players, Brendan, maybe you go first. You did play last year in terms of your games at Temple. How has your game developed from last year? And then Taurus, if you would continue on.
Yeah, just trying to get better every day in terms of, finishing at the rim, shooting threes off the dribble, things like that. And for me, it's just preparing for what defense are going to throw at me, which is, they're going to run me off the line. So kind of working on counters to that and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think for me, I really wanted to work on the things that, were my weak spots in my game. So I think, shooting from the 3-point line and then getting to the rim and making the right play when I am in the paint instead of, making predetermined plays. So watching a lot of film with Coach Mack, whether it be over Zoom or, when we were able to come back to campus, and then also with our other coaches on the staff too, but really just trying to pick apart my game. And, we had so much time to develop myself and my game. So just working on those weaknesses.
Coach, I've asked a couple of the other coaches about this. Again, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. We'll get you in here. About scheduling, you're starting at BC on November 9th. You go to Georgetown. You got a trip to Florida Gulf Coast. You have a 3-game swing in California, Stanford, Cal, and Cal State Bakersfield. And Bakersfield was a tournament team last year. What was your approach to scheduling this year?
Yeah, I think approach is kind of twofold. You try and find some local opponents that you play every year or start to build some relationships with. Our schedule is really unique, right? Because we'll play 2 to 3 games and then we go into exams because of our quarter system. So then we have a 8-day window where we not allowed to play games or travel. And then we can be pretty diverse with our scheduling in December because we don't have class. So we can go to California for 6, 7, 8 days because we're not missing any class. We can play 2 quality opponents, and then Bakersfield, we can get a home game next year from them. So yeah, I think we did want to take a part where we wanted to be aggressive with our scheduling in terms of, let's go play some quality opponents. Let's get as prepared for the league as possible. Let's see where we're at, and hopefully, it gives us a really good feel. Maybe not 2, 3 games in, maybe not 8, 9 games in, but when we get 11, 12 of those non-league in, do we have a really good identity? Do we know who we are? are we as coaches and myself as a head coach, are we experts on our team by the end of, non-league play? And I think you have to schedule that way to say, hey, is this schedule going to allow us to be experts on our team and allow me to be an expert in our team in all levels before we start, up at Cornell beginning of January.
If you have a question for Coach or either players, please use the raise hand function. Coach, I just asked the players about development in the off season or the season away, except for Brendan, obviously. How do you think you developed, both as a coach, but maybe just more individually?
Yeah, I think my family at home developed for sure. We don't get a lot of time as a college coach. It's the best profession in the world. And my college coach told me when I was a senior at Colby, Coach Whitmore, and I told him I wanted to coach. He said it's the most rewarding profession I know of and the least rewarding profession I know of. And I think that rings very true on a lot of levels. But for me to be able to spend a lot of time with the family, a growing family that's put so much sacrifice into my career was just awesome. But that didn't take away from, the amount of film and the amount of time I spent studying film or talking with other coaches and just getting maybe outside your comfort zone with some areas, or just really saying, okay, what is it that is going to make us tick in this league? What is it, even without knowing the entire roster, how do we want to be defined? And I think just a lot of time spent on that. A lot of time spent with the staff on staff development, and that's different things, right? That's like, hey, let's watch this film together. Hey, this book is really good. Let's take a look at it. This podcast is phenomenal. And really just trying to mentor and lead them to the best my ability. And then I think also try to be very involved on campus, but even getting more involved, maybe being in other groups, helping in other ways, getting to meet other people. And what that just made, I think, our foundation as a program stronger as a whole.
Thank you very much. If you have a question for Coach of the players, please use the raise hand function. Let's go back to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online. Robert?
Hi, this is for Brendan and Taurus. The last couple of years, you guys have been really close to the Ivy tournament, a real tough out, but just missed out. As team leaders, what do you guys feel you have to do to get your team over the hump into that foursome in March?
Yeah, I think Coach and Taurus mentioned before, it's being really detail oriented. Focusing on the little things and trying to get better every day, whether it's working on your body, watching film, getting in the gym, things of that nature. So I think for us to get over the hump, it's real close in the Ivy League. Games are decided by 1-2 points every day. So I think it's the little things that are going to make the difference for that.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that for sure. Being really focused on the details because, as Brendan said, games are decided by 1 or 2 possessions. And so, I think one thing that us as older guys have been trying to do is like trying to instill that into the younger guys, is like showing them that every day counts, every possession counts, and you can't really take any plays off. And so just trying to get over that hump by, like I said, taking every possession seriously and going from there. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. No other questions coming in. We'll give it a beat here. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Coach, just on the kind of momentum, similar question, a similar theme, I guess. Momentum year to year matters. It can keep you going and help build the program. Obviously, you were 5-9 in the league, 12-17 overall. It's the best in your tenure there. How much does that affect the momentum you guys were building, having that year forced away?
Yeah, it's always hard to look at it and say, hey, we had this really good group coming back, and Brendan made a major decision to come back, and we had a large portion of scoring and minutes, but it doesn't matter. I think the biggest thing is to say, okay, what has gotten us to this point where we've had forward momentum every year, and how can we get back to that as quickly as possible? And I think it starts with your leadership. I really do. And we put a lot on these guys. We hold them really accountable. And I think that's what we're trying to work on right now is, can we do that? Can we build a good foundation? Can we have really high execution levels? Because that's really the only thing that gives you a chance is to build that foundation now for it to work in January. So it's kind of the only way I know how to do it. So I wish I had a better answer than that, but it's just building a really strong foundation.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Coach. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck as you start things off November 9th up in Chestnut Hill against BC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, as we take a second here to transition to Harvard, they are up next. 21-8 in their last campaign, 10-4 in league play, finished second overall. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. We will get you in the queue as we transition over to Tommy Amaker. Noah Kirkwood and Cale Ketchens will be joining us. And as we roll on, there is the Harvard guys joining us. As mentioned, Tommy Amaker heading into his 15th year, 7-time Ivy champs. Noah Kirkwood, first team All Ivy last year. Cale Ketchens joining as well. Coach Amaker, great to see you again. And as you're about to get things going here after a long awaited off season, I'll call it, how do you feel getting ready to go? Kind of your opening statement.
Yeah, Dallin, first of all, thank you. And great to see you. And I've been following all your wonderful progress with your career and representing Ivy League very well. So we're grateful. And with these two guys here on the screen, you know, we're excited about what's in front of us. And then first of all, you mentioned, what year is this for me now? What did you say?
15th. Going to blew my mind.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking it was 14, but it was 14 seasons. So now it's
14 seasons, yeah.
There you
exactly.
go. Right. But I'm excited for the guys we have on the screen and our team. I'm always optimistic and enthusiastic about the beginning of a college basketball season, and most of the time, and just all the time actually, is because of the players we've been fortunate enough to have to coach and to teach and to be around. And these two guys in particular are going to be outstanding for us this year. And if they aren't, we aren't going to be very good. So I'm just putting it out there right now for both of them. But we're proud of them, Dallin, and we do think with the being off for a whole year, it's been unusual, as you probably know, and we all can imagine. And we're certainly enthused about being able to come back and be back, and not just because of basketball, but certainly for back in-person school and being back on campus and all the things that the environment, the institution, all the things that it brings. So we're hoping that we can do our part as we kick off the basketball season and start practice, which we have, and having guys work hard, and also remembering that we're fortunate to be here, and also to have some fun along the way. So thanks for having us.
Great to have you guys here. If you have a question for Coach Amaker, Noah, or Cale, please use the raise hand function. Noah, please answer this first. Cale, please follow up. What was the biggest challenge of the last 18 months, and kind of how do you feel on the precipice of this season?
Yeah, it was very challenging for me in particular because being back in Canada, a lot of the restrictions were extremely tough. And my dad, who has diabetes, was someone I made sure very carefully I wasn't doing things I probably shouldn't be doing, which is playing outside or playing in gyms. And having the gyms actually closed down and weight rooms closed down did help that situation. He's doing great and he's in good health. But for me as a basketball player, it made things a lot more tougher to make sure I was staying ready and being able to help my team this year. So definitely was tough. I was able to come on campus this summer early, which was great, do some summer school classes and get work in early as well. But like Coach said, I'm really excited for the season and getting going for sure.
Yeah, I definitely echo some of those same sentiments. I was in San Diego, California for the past year or so. So definitely also had some of those same restrictions that kind of kept me from the gym. But I think the biggest part was just being away from the guys, being away from the locker room, and being away from the school. A lot of what makes Harvard special, and especially our team, is the people who are here. So just having to go through a day-to-day routine in terms of school, in terms of your own workouts, without those people around you to lift you up if you're not having a great day, was definitely pretty difficult. But I mean, outside of that, I enjoyed kind of getting to know myself and what kind of motivates me on a day-to-day basis, and kind of having more of a, going through those internal struggles definitely made me stronger. And as a result, I'm just, we can't take this time for granted at all. So I think that those kind of sentiments have definitely been present in the locker room. I think everyone very much cherishes each moment we have together, and it's more so than ever before. It's understood that what we have each day is, we can't take for granted. So I think that that kind of motivation, especially with most of our guys not being able to come on campus at all, has really been present through these first couple of weeks. So
Imagine a lot less complaints about practice than what used to be said back in my day. All right, questions are rolling in. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function, get in the queue. Jonathan Tannewall starts us off at Philadelphia Inquirer. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Dalen. Hey, everybody. Tommy, good to see you again. It's been a while. Here we are in the name, image, and likeness era. And obviously there's a long history at Harvard of non-athletes being able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. And I wonder what you think it's going to be like for the athletes now to have some of the same opportunities.
Well, I'll let the athletes, you guys, jump in and say how you feel and take it. I'll follow your lead.
No, you're gone. I got you. No, you got to go.
Okay. So for me in particular, I think it's just an amazing opportunity. I think for our team, we've all realized that there's so many avenues you can take with this. And I think each one of us has unique parts about us. I've joked around with Mason Forbes saying he should talk to Head and Shoulders because I think he'd have a great partnership with them with his hair and all that. But all jokes aside, I think there are so many avenues we all could take. And at least for me, I've reached out already to a bunch of restaurants around campus, helping small businesses in that way. And I know Kale's thought about some other things as well he can share about, but just the fact that we have the opportunity now to profit off our own name, image, likeness, and all the hard work we put in to deserve that, I think is awesome.
yeah, I agree. I think it's been very interesting, this especially beginning portion, with it being such fresh legislation. But I think it really is, it's been a long time coming, and I think it's definitely, especially being at Harvard, like you said, there's been a long history of other students in various, other kind of regards being able to profit, whether it's musically or within their own kind of business ventures or whatnot. But for us to also have that same opportunities has been, it's definitely a blessing. But I think that these kind of formative first couple months have been interesting because they're a lot of us athletes, especially with the evolution of social media, you get a lot of requests and whatnot that might not always be in your best interest. So definitely having to filter through those has been something that I didn't intend, or I didn't really see coming from the beginning. But I'm very excited, especially as the season gets going. I'm hoping to hopefully get something going with my first name, maybe something healthy. A nice little sponsorship there would be nice, but we'll see what gets cooking as we start the season and everything.
Jonathan, I'll just, hopefully bring up the rear here and wrap it up for you. But I always like to listen to these guys, not just these two guys, but our players and kids on campus, and just hear their thoughts and their opinions. I mean, they're incredibly bright and have a lot to say, and I learn. I learned from our guys probably a hell of a lot more than they probably learned from me. But I also feel like it's what's right in terms of what every other student is allowed to do. Like we pride ourselves on doing everything in the way in which it's done for every other student in the Ivy League, or at least I know for our campus, just speak for our campus. We don't want to have anything different for athletes, and we don't want to have anything different for anybody else. So if other students are allowed to participate in various things in certain manners, and why shouldn't the athletes? Because we pride, that's the staple of our philosophy and perspective, is that our athletes aren't going to be treated any differently. And so we love that. And I'm also in favor of player empowerment. I think it's a movement in that direction over the last number of years, but specifically here more recently, to empower the players across all sports and all campuses. And I love that. I love the fact that they're able to participate in a way that's healthy and right, and certainly in a manner in which other students that have been allowed to do that here on our campus, that we are no longer excluded, from those moments or those opportunities.
Thanks, guys, very much.
Thank you, John.
Well said. I think it's great to hear you guys thinking creatively, entrepreneurial thoughts that you may have had already, but now you get to act on them. I think that's gonna be a great byproduct for a lot of athletes for years to come, just to think more business focused and be able to use that now. Let's keep going with the questions. If you have a question, use the raise hand function. Richard Kent, Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead, Richard.
How are you, Tommy?
Richard, how are you, my friend?
Good. Tommy, can you give some comments about the new scheduling format and how that might impact your preparation for the upcoming season?
Yeah, Richard, thanks for being here with us. And in all fairness and honesty, with all questions in reference to our schedule, like I've been, I'm anxious to kind of see how it plays out. You know, we've been such a tradition, Rich, I have to tell you that, Richard, for so many years of Dallin, for how the conference has structured things in terms of the schedule, you know, with back-to-back games on Fridays and Saturdays, and certainly my whole entire time as a head coach here in the Ivy League. So, and I thought that was a unique thing about our league in a way that was, I actually liked it. I just actually thought it made us have to really prepare very hard and doing things a certain way for 2 games back-to-back without a break. Now, if we're going to change that, it's going to be somewhat different. I'm anxious to see the rhythm of it. I'm anxious to see how we're going to respond to it. And hopefully there's some positives out of it, you know, in terms of kids getting more rest. Hopefully there's a way in terms of academically, you know, it can help us improve as well, because we won't have the trips of the 2 games and now it's just 1. So there are things that actually I'm just waiting to see, Richard. I don't have any predictions for it. I'm just on a wait and see mode, and hopefully you know, the things that we gather from it, you know, we'll learn and get better as we move along the pathway of keeping it or changing it.
Thank you, Richard. Again, if you want to ask a question to Noah, Tommy, or Kale, please use the raise hand function. We'll keep it moving with the Tannewall brothers. David Tannewall from Harvard Magazine. Go ahead, David.
Hey guys, I'm wondering if you can talk about Mason Forbes' growth on and off the court over the past 4 years. So Coach would love to get your perspective as his coach, and then Noah and Cal would also love to get your perspectives as teammates and friends.
Yeah, I'll start it and let these guys, they know him incredibly well. And I'll say right now, David, like I'm very proud of Mason. I love Mason as I love these guys. And he and Kale have been awarded and named our co-captains for this season. And the thing I'm anxious to learn about, and these guys are probably going to laugh because they don't think that I know this, but I want to see the dance moves. I've just been hearing so much, you know, all over town and campus, you know, how he's able to do his thing with all his dance moves. And I haven't seen it. I just want to make sure that I'm brought to the party or something. But Mason is a basketball guy. He understands the game. He knows who he is. I think, you know, David, that's as big as anything for a player, to have a true sense of understanding of who you are. And you think about that in life, you know, as we grow and learn and develop and whatever we end up doing, but, you know, being comfortable with who you are. I always sensed that with Mason and love that about him. I remember that's when we recruited him and talked about that with him, that I wanted him to be who he is and to be, and I wanted to embrace that, which we do with all our guys. But his game, he's gotten stronger. You know, he asked about his game on the court. He's been durable, knock on wood here, because we've had a few injuries here as of start of the year, but he's been a guy that's been, you know, there every day. I mean, I can't remember, you know, Mason ever missing a practice or so getting stronger, being a captain as a leader in our program, someone that we always talk about, you know, how important it is to be reliable and dependable. I don't know of anyone that's been more reliable or more dependable than Mason Forbes in our basketball program. And maybe you already know this too, David, but he was selected and awarded as the NABC Community Assist Team, which is an incredible accomplishment and an award that he was bestowed here recently with just 10 other players around all Division 1, 2, and 3 in college basketball, as an individual that's done so much in the community assist. So he's done it in every way that we would ask one of our players to do it. And he has fun doing it. His teammates love him. and so does his head coach. I love him.
Yeah, I couldn't really say it better myself than Coach Amaker, but the one thing I will say is getting to know Mason. We did our official visit together, and we had a lot of conversations on how we viewed our 4 years together and what we do and accomplish. And I think him being behind Chris Lewis, Robert Baker, and other great big men we've had in this program has really helped him grow. And now we see it this senior year already with how he's been playing on the floor. It's just really exciting for me to know I have that tandem, because I'll play a bit of the 4 this year as well. So we'll be playing together a lot. Just to know he's grown so much from the beginning, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to playing with him.
Yeah, I think Coach Amaker said it really well when he was talking about how comfortable in his own shoes Mason is, and being close to him. Us 4 seniors, Noah, Mason, Spencer, and I were all roommates, so we spend quite a bit of time together. And during our sophomore year, Mason and I actually like physically shared a room. So just being around him for that portion was really enlightening to me, because you saw a guy that is one kind of the big man on campus. Like if you're walking anywhere with Mason, of course he's with the afro, he's very, easy to recognize, but at the same time, he also knows everyone else's name who's greeting him. So he's kind of always been this larger than life persona, but in the same way, he's very much comfortable in that. And he's always, really confident in that. And I think it shows on the court. And I think his game, although he's very much progressed throughout that time, he's been so dependable. He's been so consistent. Every time he goes out there, what he's going to bring on defense, what he's going to bring in terms of his post moves and being able to be effective around the basket. And so I think that just having that, especially as a leader on this team, as a captain, and with us 4 seniors being as close as we are, Mason is an intricate part of that, an integral part of that. And I'm excited to see, as he's in this leadership role with me, what we can do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Tannewall cousins, not brothers. My bad. I stand corrected. Let's keep it moving. If you want to ask questions, use the raise hand function. We'll now go to Robert Brown of Ivy Hoops Online. Robert.
Hi, Coach. Obviously, a lot of talk of the front court with the gentleman you have with you and Mason Forbes. You also have Chris Ledlum in the mix. Can you talk a little bit about the backcourt, especially including, I guess, Louis Lemon, who was the preseason player of the year with Blue Ribbon? Thanks.
Yeah, I don't, for good or bad, I don't follow all the preseason, thoughts or predictions or rankings, but speaking of Louis and our perimeter, we call our guys perimeters and posts, and certain guys these 2 guys have to do both, and other players will have to do it as well. But you mentioned Louis. Louis is going to be a good player in our program. He's got great size for a perimeter guy. He works hard. I think one of the things for all young guys and first-year players that we try to instill with them is to try to make sure you're going to work hard and try to fit in. And he's done that. I think that's all that we can ask of younger players or first-year guys. But we do think that our perimeter, will have an impact for our season. And the guy that's going to, impact it the most is on this screen, and that's Noah. We're going to ask a lot of him, has to play a lot of different roles and positions. And I've already apologized to him twice, in practice so far, but I'm asking him to do so much. So, but he says he can handle it, and I always like that answer out of him. But other players, with Edon, and we're thinking of Spencer being the other senior. All these guys are going to compete. Luca, they're going to compete for opportunities, and we think that could be a strength of our team, is having some depth on the perimeter and having different bodies and guys. And then, a young player that's another first-year guy, 2 first-year other perimeter guys would be Tyler and Denham. These guys are showing the promise of going to be good players in this program. I think they already have gained the respect of their teammates, and I think that's as big as anything as a young first-year guy. And all of our guys have been able to do that, and I'm very pleased with that.
If you have a question for Coach or the players, please use the raise hand function. Let's go back to David. I think you have another question. David, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand. I don't have another question, but I appreciate
Okay.
it.
No worries. I have a question. So Tommy, the other day I was actually talking to a guy that played against you in the Naval Academy back in the day, Tony Wells. And Tony was, he just had said, well, Harvard dominates the Ivy League, don't they? Didn't really argue that, but had to kind of educate him. They won a lot of championships, but haven't been back to the tournament since 2015. How you had to play some of those tournaments on the road against other teams that ended up punching their ticket. How much is the success? What are your reaction to the fact that the brand you've created, people just assume that you guys are the best team in the league, but how much does it drive you? You haven't been to the dance since 15.
Well, it's a compliment of thinking of us in that manner, and I think a lot of that down is because of the success we've had over the last 12 or 13 years or whatever it's been, and we're proud of that. We're proud of our program being created and becoming relevant nationally, not just within our conference. But we recognize, and I've said this, you've heard me say it from day one, of how tough and challenging our league is. I tell people all the time, and other coaches, I would say, whatever league you happen to be in, it's hard. So whatever, if that's the ACC, if that's the Ivy League, if that's the SEC, if that's the Patriot, if you are a participant in your league, you recognize the challenges and how hard your league is. And so we know that, but we also know that, we've had our share of successful moments, and we're proud of the Ivy championships that we've been able to win over the last 13, 14 years, whatever it's been. And, that says a lot about these players and others who've come, before them. But you asked another part of that is that, we haven't been to the tournament since, 2015. We're proud that we were able to get into the NIT. That hasn't happened for a lot of our teams on our level or our league to, get into postseason. If you don't make the NCAA, you don't win your conference championship. So we're proud of those things. And there's a lot of things that have to go into having a successful championship level team, let alone program. But we certainly recognize that, the end of the day, that we want to be able to win our league, win our tournament, and play in the NCAA tournament.
And the tournament will be at Levity's Pavilion this year, March 11th to the 13th, both the men and the women. Guys, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll see you November 9th when you open things up against Morehouse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, as we transition to Penn, we will lower everybody's hands. So if you have a question for the Penn contingent, please use the raise hand function now, and we will get you in the queue as we make the move over to the Quakers, who were 16-11 in the last campaign, 8-6 in league play, tied for 4th in the standings. And Coach Steve Donahue joins us along with seniors Lonnie Williams and junior Lucas Monroe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know we're all excited about the season. I'm sure you are. Coach Donahue, now your sixth season at Penn. What are your emotions? What are your thoughts, kind of your opening statement as you get ready to tip it back up here again?
The best thing I can say is that I think it feels pretty normal. After all we've been through, that's like an incredible accomplishment that we go to practice, we compete, kids are going to class, there's frustration, there's joy. The overall thing for us is that I think we're all incredibly grateful that we're playing college basketball, in particular after what our league had to do last year.
If you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function for Coach Jelani or Lucas. Jelani, I have to ask you, you've had an unbelievably difficult career in the fact multiple ACL tears, then you hit with the pandemic. Through all those challenges, what do you think you've learned the most to get to this point?
It's a great question. I think before anything else, I kind of learned to, remain grateful for what I have. Growing up, I kind of came to Penn with the idea of what I thought my career could be. And, you set goals and things like that. But over the course of my years here, I kind of just learned to take things day by day and really just attack whatever it is in front of me, that day. And then hopefully that, leads into better future outcomes. And so for me, it's just kind of remaining grateful for what I do have and then, striving to, keep getting better every day.
If you have a question, please use the raise hand function and get in the queue. So we will start it off now with Glenn Papazian from Philly College Sports. Go ahead, Glenn.
Hello, Steve. In the past, you've had experienced teams. After this year, of course, you could say nobody's really experienced. But with that being said, how much is experience going to be a factor of getting the team through and successful this year?
You know, Glenn, in a league that's really unique in terms of having played last year, I think we're even more unique. We have older guys who have been in our program 3 and 4 years, and in Jelani's case, 5 years, who have not played a college game, who are very experienced basketball players. Jelani, I would argue Jelani Williams has played more basketball than anybody over the last 5 years. Just hasn't been with an NCAA uniform on. And then Michael Wong, who did play 1 year, but out 2 years. And Jonah Charles, a third-year guy who has not played in a game, but has played a ton of basketball with him. And then we have other additions like Michael Moskovitz, who is a junior college transfer. He's going to be 24 years old. He's also an upperclassman. To go along with obviously Lucas and Jordan Dingle and Max Martz. So in a way, I feel like these guys have been in our program. We've been through so much together that we do have great experiences. And I have great trust that that experience that we've had, even though it hasn't been necessarily in games, is something that's going to benefit us.
And to the players, can you talk about the excitement now of getting back and playing at the Palestra?
Yeah, I think if you were to come and watch a Penn practice right now, you'd see how like excited everyone is. One, to get back in the Palestra. I mean, that's the best gym in the world. But two, just like we have a bunch of guys that have never played college basketball before, guys that haven't played in multiple years. So they're, I mean, even excluding the freshmen, I think everyone's coming in with like that freshman kind of attitude. Like they're just excited to play their first college basketball game. And it's translated onto the court in terms of how we're practicing. I think every single practice so far has been extremely high energy, super competitive. So I think we're using that excitement in a positive way and translating it over. And you'll be able to see that, you know, November 10th when we start playing.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, a lot of our guys, like Lucas said, haven't really gotten the opportunity to play. I've been here, you know, long enough to see some pretty great moments in the Palestra, obviously, you know, beating Villanova and winning the Ivy League tournament, things like that. So I think that's kind of what I try and give to our guys every day when we come into practice is like, you know, we want to put in the work now so that when the fans come back in the building and the lights turn on, you know, we're ready to make some of those moments for ourselves as a group.
Thank you.
It's a special building. You guys' first game there will be November 16th against Lafayette. I think that'll be a vibe. I might want to get down there for that. Let's keep it moving with the questions. Joe Torty, 97.5, The Fanatic. Joe, go ahead.
Steve, it feels like a million years ago when you and I sat in the Palestra and you were talking about how excited you were to get Jelani on campus. And I was talking with a couple people trying to track somebody who's a senior captain making their collegiate debut. It's a unique situation. So what's it been like for you watching that journey, and what's it going to mean to see him, you know, out on the court at the Palestra?
Yeah, Joe, I think back when I first got the job, Jelani had already been on this campus probably as a sophomore in high school. So think about his feeling about Penn. And we made a priority number one to recruit him our first year, and went really all in and got to know him well, and went down to Sidwell Friends and followed his journey there. And then obviously the incredible amount of disappointments for him. But to see him persevere through it all, and I'm just extremely happy more than anything else that he's playing basketball. He's going to have that uniform on November 10th when we go to Florida State, and all the things we expected from him. Honestly, it all came true because he's an incredible leader. He's unanimously voted by his teammates to be captain, even though he hasn't play the game. It just tells you the immense impact he has in our program with having ever not played a game. So for him finally to get the joy of going out there and wearing the Penn jersey and feeling what he's always worked for, I can't tell you how excited I am for him.
If you have a question, please use the raise your hand function or raise hand function, and we'll get you in the queue. Next up, Jonathan Tannewall from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jonathan.
Thanks, Dallin. I think we'll have room for you if you come down here.
Thanks.
Steve, you've addressed a lot of it already. You addressed some of it in the paper this morning, I know, but Mike Wang specifically, if you could expand a little bit on what you've seen from him so far, and how long it's been, since he last played a game and played at the high level that he, shot out of the cannon with when he started here. Thanks.
Yeah. You go back to, I don't even know what year, 18, 19 season. He's a freshman, and he has a 4-game stretch versus LaSalle, Villanova, Miami, New Mexico. Essentially, to me, he was our best player at that point, won those games, and a lot of things he does. He got hurt. His knee was always bothering him. He really wasn't the same after Christmas of that year. The journey he's been on, 2 major operations on his knee. Finally got back. I don't know if he would have played last year, but he was with the China national team, and he worked out with them pretty extensively right up to the Olympics. Was with an organization, pro team in China, working out with them. And now he came back, and I think these guys will attest. Hard to imagine somebody more talented at 6'10" in our league. He can do multiple things. Yesterday, he was an elite passer. He just had so many different things he does at that size. And now we're just, he's a different player. You'll see body's stronger, bigger, better. I do think there's some transitional things that he's got to get used to, the intensity of the college game and things of that nature. But I'm excited for a healthy Mike. I think his teammates are excited to have him, and I think you'll see a really productive season out of him.
And a question for the players too, on a different subject. In this, we're in the era of NIL now, and I wonder what you guys think of now having these opportunities available to you, and what you've seen so far.
So I've been one of the players that's tried to take advantage of the NIL. I think it's a great opportunity, kind of just to expand your brand, expand your name. I think you see it play out in different ways at different levels of college athletics, depending on where you're at. But I was able to run my own camp this summer. I've been involved with a few different brands advertising. But I think overall, I was happy. I think most players were happy about the decision. And I hope everyone's able to take advantage of it. Again, just to build your brand. I think it's something that you don't necessarily think about when you start playing basketball, but it's a nice additive for all the hard work that you've put in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that's been, in the news cycle for a while when you talk about college athletics and, players and equity and things like that. So I think it was the right move. It's a little bit overdue for the NCAA. So I'm excited. Me personally, I'm still trying to, just get on the court and build my name that way so that, I can take advantage of it. But I think it's going to be great for a lot of different guys. I know, we were talking about Mike earlier. I know he has a huge following in China and things like that. So for guys on our team, it's been great for guys that have been able to take advantage of it. And, hopefully moving forward, everybody will be able to kind of get a piece of it.
Thanks, fellas. See you soon.
If you have a question for either players or coach, please use the raise hand function. We'll continue through the queue here. Carol Holmes from The Athletic. Carol, go ahead.
Coach Donahue, Lucas, Jelani, good to see you guys. I hope everyone's well.
I didn't know that was your real name.
Keep that, keep
What
it
the
secret. It's my
heck?
government name.
You're undercover. All right, I got you, CJ.
Coach Donahue, what can you tell us about the newcomers? You know, guys like Clark Slatchard, how have they transitioned into practice, and what do you expect from them this season?
Yeah, it's a funny word, newcomers, because you have so many guys, but with the class from last year, which is your sophomore class, Clark Slatchard came back last spring. And I do think that was something that I was really grateful for, and I'm sure these guys here were, is that we got to really train for 3 months. It was like a training camp, and that's never happened in my career as a coach, where I could just come in every day and work as hard as we want without the worrying of a game. So they can lift and get bigger and stronger. The reality of it is, if you want to get better, that's the way to get better, is really put all that. And I'm grateful for Penn's administration, and we all came back and had a great spring semester. But Clark Slatchard had stood out in the spring. He's come back here. He's probably a little more inconsistent because we have a lot more size on the court, but he's someone I feel that's going to be a very good scorer. He plays really hard. He defends at a high level. Just a good all-around basketball player. And with him in that class, Andrew Lachikowski was a little injured, but he has played well as well. Michael Moskovitz, as I mentioned earlier, a junior college transfer from Israel, as someone that is an elite defender, rebounder, passer, just a jack of all trades, and as a good shooter, just probably doesn't take advantage of it yet. And then we have our old freshman class, 5 new guys, and they've all played well. George Smith, Gus Larson. I got to make sure I don't miss anybody. Nick Spinoza, Eddie Holland, and Reese McMullen, who's been out with an injured back. But those guys, I think through them all, have really bought into the culture here at Penn. They work really hard. They're a fun group to coach, and they're really talented. So we're excited about their future as well.
Thank you, CJ. Moving on, if you have another question for Coach or the players, use the raise hand function. About 5 more minutes here with the Penn contingent. We'll move on to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online. Robert?
Hi, Coach. Since you guys last stepped on the court for an official game in 2020, AJ Broder, one of the program's all-time greats, is no longer there. How will the style of play differ this year, since he's been the focal point for so many years? Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Obviously, if you watch this play, and the uniqueness of our style probably evolved more than planned, basically on what AJ was able to do. And also, losing someone like Jelani and Michael Wong and Bryce Washington and Ryan Bentley, and it just kind of evolved into what it was at the end, which I'm not saying good or bad. It's just what it was. I think you'll see a lot different play from us. We have a lot of different guys who can do multiple skills on the offensive and defensive end. These 2 guys on the screen bring great size from the guard position. Both can go off the bounce, create for their teammates, yet finish at the rim. And we have multiple guys that do that, and we're going to play to their strengths. That being said, and we talk about it all the time, we got to be great with the basketball, which is one of our trademarks, and move the ball, cut, space, all that. I think the biggest difference you'll see in our team, though, is on the defensive end. I do think with our depth and our positional size that we can be way more aggressive on the defensive end, more from a full court standpoint, play more bodies, pressure the ball, getting rotations better, protect the rim at the same time. And I think it's been fun for me to coach, and I hope these guys have enjoyed that change in our style of play as well.
Thank you, Robert. If anybody else has a question, please use the raise hand function. Coach, you mentioned playing at Florida State November 10th, one of the best programs in the country. Leonard Hamilton's built last 6-7 years. They've been outstanding. You go play Myrtle Beach Invitational, that's Utah State. You could play other good competition. You're playing at Arkansas, and obviously you have the Big Five. What was your approach to scheduling, which is by far the hardest schedule in this league?
There's a couple of things, Dale, that like, this is what Penn does. This is my responsibility. This is how this program goes back to Chuck Daly and Fran Dunphy and Final Fours. And that's nothing unusual, that schedule. It may be a little more challenging in normal, in particular, when you think we had the year off, but I look at Jelani Williams. I want to give him almost make up for all the things he missed, if I can, with these incredible places to play, like Florida State and 3 national TV games on ESPN at Myrtle Beach and at Arkansas, and obviously the great rivalries we have here in the city with Villanova. That was really my motivation, is like, I'm not worrying about anything else. We missed the whole year. Let's go experience everything we can and challenge us. In the back of my mind, it's going to really help us when we get to the Ivy League.
And last question before we wrap up, we'll go back to Jonathan again. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thanks, Del. Steve, I was listening to your answer to CJ about all the new guys. It's a lot of new guys. And I wonder how that compares to over the years for you, that amount of new guys having incorporated into a program.
Well, if you look at it, we've got 19 guys in the program, and really 3 have played college basketball in the last couple of years. And that's our 2 guys, 2 freshmen from the previous season, in Jordan Dingle and Max Martz and Lucas Monroe. But as I mentioned, there was a lot of guys who have played a lot of basketball and been part of our program. And then there's this whole other slew of guys who we feel are our future. And what I mean by future, that could mean December, that could be January. But I'm pretty confident that this group, in particular my years at Penn, this is the deepest, most talented group of players that we had. I thought we built this program when we came back and did it with incredible high character kids. What our goal was to get those same type of kids that were more talented. That's kind of how you grow any organization. And I think we've done that, and we're hopeful that that will show in the court.
Coach Donahue, Lucas, Jelani, appreciate your time. Good luck as you guys tip things off against Florida State. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Ben. Coming up next, when we transition, we will lower everybody's hands again. So please raise your hand if you have a question for Princeton. Mitch Henderson will be joined by senior Jalen Llewellyn and senior Drew Freiberg here in just a moment. Princeton in our last campaign went 14-13, 9-5 in the Ivy League, finished 3rd in the conference. They will open their season November 12th in the Asheville Championship, November 9th at Rutgers Camden, 7 Eastern at Jadwin Gymnasium, before heading off to the Asheville Championship, take on South Carolina, and then either Minnesota or Western Kentucky. And with that said, here is the Princeton contingent joining us. There's Mitch Henderson, Jalen Llewellyn, and Drew Freiberg. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We appreciate it. Mitch is heading into his 11th year, 10th season at the helm for the Tigers. Given everything that's taken place in the last 18 months here, Mitch, what's your opening statement as you guys are getting ready to play?
Can't wait to get going. Finally, we've I haven't had the opportunity to listen to all the other coaches on the call, but we missed being around the guys, being together. As I look here at both Drew and Jalen, I can say that, we have our first scrimmage coming up. We're just so fired up to be able to play. There's an appreciation and a humility. Just being able to get on the floor and represent our team. I think recalibration of what that means to us here at Princeton, and really thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Coach. I love your background. Make shots, Princeton basketball. I love that. That's simply said. If you have a question for either players or for Coach, please use the raise hand function. As you guys queue up, I'll ask questions of the players. just give you guys kind of the same format for them. And Jalen, start with you. What's the emotions as you're getting ready to finally get back on the court in real live action?
Just a lot of joy and excitement, to be honest. It's been a long time and a long road to get to where we are now. And when we first lost the opportunity to play, I didn't imagine that we'd be a week or 2 days away from playing our first scrimmage in 18 months. So just a lot of excitement, and I just can't wait to get started.
Drew?
And same here. We're all, a couple of us were back here in the spring, so we've had some togetherness. But now that everybody's back, we're all excited. Everybody's working hard, and we have a lot of new guys who are excited and bringing a lot of stuff to the team. So we're just all excited to get going for sure.
Great stuff. Again, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function and get in the queue. We will start with Jerry Carino from NJ.com. Jerry?
Mitch, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Jerry. Yep.
So welcome back. And two questions for you to start. One is, how long did you go without seeing your team exactly?
Exactly. Would have been 11 months. About
And
11 months.
What was that very first team meeting like? What did you do? What did you say? What was the feel for that first time you saw all the faces in one place?
It was a really different time because we were masked up all the time. Not that we aren't now, but it was just, we were in phase 0 when we first saw everybody. So it was sort of like, we'll distance hang. But I think the very first time we were able to get on the court and do a workout felt just like a release. I remember distinctly though, in March, as the tournament was going on, we were able to work out, and then we would have the opportunity to watch some of the games, and we would talk about the games, and it was just an unusual time. It's usually the time of the year where either hopefully you're playing or you're sort of wrapping up your season, but we were just kind of getting going. So I don't know. It felt like I don't do very well, like not having something to do when it relates to basketball. So it just felt like, the purpose for which we're here, the guys, was sort of, as I mentioned earlier, it just felt like a great recalibration of what's important.
And where do you turn to in this uncharted situation on how to restart this? And what's the biggest challenge a coach faces? I mean, it's not somebody you can really ask about this, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably say that a lot. I felt like last spring was very different than the summer, and the summer was really different than the fall. As we came back in the fall, I can just say that it felt like, it felt regular, but it wasn't. We knew we were going to play a game for us in 20 days. We've got a game. So all I can say is, it feels great. I know, Jerry, we don't like being different. We want to be just like everybody else. But we were different, and we accept it. And hopefully we can play well enough to sort of get rid of those kind of questions. Not that it's a bad question, totally fair.
And Jalen, I want to ask you, what did you do to stay sharp? And what's this like for you as a player? Did you learn anything about yourself or the game with all this time away from your team?
Yeah, I definitely, it was like a big reminder of how much I enjoy being in this environment. And it was it was just a shock to think that now I'm a senior, and the last time I was here, I was a sophomore, and it felt like I had like the most time to enjoy it. But now it's really like, wow, this is my last opportunity to be here with the people that I love and love to work hard with, and I just really want to continue that and make the most of the last bit that we have here, me, Andrew, and the rest of the people in our class.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you, Jerry. Again, if you want to ask a question, please use raise hand function. We'll keep it moving. Kyle Franco from the Trentonian. Kyle.
Hey, Mitch, how are you?
Hey, Kyle, I'm doing great. How are you?
I wanted to ask you about Jalen. And have you seen him get better as both a player and a leader despite the year off? And if he puts it all together, can he be the player of the year in this league?
Well, first of all, I told Jalen the other day, like he's like a 40-year-old man compared to when he was here as a sophomore. I've been so impressed with both Jalen and Drew and Ethan's example as some of the leaders on our team. But you don't exactly ever know what somebody's going to be kind of going through when they're gone for a little while. But to answer the second part of your question, actually, I think we have several guys that could be both first team or player of the year candidates on the team. But Jalen has played a significant role for us already. Then most of you are aware of that, but he's playing like a senior, and so is Drew. And it's a college basketball, in particular in the Ivy League. I think it's a senior-driven league, so I'm thrilled that these guys are wearing the orange and black.
Thanks, Mitch.
Again, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function. We'll keep moving. Jonathan Tannewall from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thanks, Dylan. Everybody, Mitch, good to see you again.
Hey, Jonathan.
Here we are in the NIL era, and Mitch, you can answer this, and your players are certainly welcome to answer as well. What do you make of it, and the opportunities that are out there now for players in the Ivy League to have some of the opportunities that their non-athlete colleagues in this league have made a lot of hay with over a long time?
I think it's fantastic. I'm so happy that this time has arrived for these guys. We're learning as we go. I think it's a reflection too of, that I would say I'm learning as much about this process and this time from our guys, sort of how you set boundaries, how you grow as a person. And part of that growth to me is the growth of the NCAA. And I think it's perfect timing, and it's a good move for the NCAA. I know there's some concerns out there, and I hear those things, but so many guys that have ever played here at Princeton have talked about their experience in a positive light, but they've also been quick to bring up, like, here are the things I really struggled with. And if this could bring any sort of relief to our guys, I'm all for that. And I'm hopeful that it continues to grow.
Either the players, if you want to say anything.
I think it's a great opportunity for players across the country to be able to have this opportunity. And although there are a lot of things we don't understand yet or know, I think it's a step in the right direction for players to be able to make the most out of their college basketball experience or just college athletic experience.
Drew, anything to add?
Exactly what Jalen said. I think, it's a long time coming. Now the guys, you can benefit from this. And, so I think it's a really great opportunity that we'll continue to explore. And, but like Jalen said, it's a step in the right direction for sure.
Thanks. I've got one other question for Mitch, completely unrelated. I know you're close friends with Jesse Marsh and have been for a long time. And I think you might know that I know him a little bit too from his time over here. When you watch him, when you watch the way he runs a game, the style that he likes to play with, anything you can take from that applies to basketball? Because I think some of the folks who are in soccer these days would say that there are some basketball principles that work with some of how they do their stuff.
First of all, it's so funny you're bringing this up. I know you're a big soccer person, Jonathan. I'll just say this. I love Jesse first. He's great, close friend, and also very close with Kim. And we, pulling so hard for him. I love what he's doing with his set pieces. I know very little about soccer, but I love to watch it. And I know Jesse follows Princeton basketball very closely too. And it's been fun over the years when he was in the MLS he would have the summers during his season and he would come to a lot of our games. So he's aware of Jalen and Drew, and he asks me, like, how are those guys doing? And it's fun that a Champions League head coach is following along with Princeton basketball. So we enjoy that.
If you ever want to learn, I'm sure Tim Lenahan will give you an earful, but Dallin will give you even more. So
That final 30 minutes was tough to watch for him in Leipzig the other day. But we digress. Let's get back to Ivy League hoops. Let's keep moving. Make sure we get through all the questions. Richard Kent from Ivy Hoops Online. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Richard, you're up.
How are you, Mitch?
Hey, good, Richard. How are you?
Okay. Mitch, how does the league look and feel different from when you played in the mid to late 90s?
Way better all the way around. Dallin, you can say, I don't know, like so many, the older you get, the better you were, Richard. What we ask these guys to do is tenfold compared to what I had to do. As good as we thought we were or whatever, that was a long time ago. These guys the players are better. The level of competition throughout the league, top to bottom, is far better. They're lifting more, they're playing harder. I mean, I wouldn't have a shot with the level of play in the league now. These guys are. I mean, it's awesome. It's so fun to be associated with it. Really, really cool time for Ivy League hoops.
I would second that too. There's no shot I could play. So I'm glad I'm old, I guess, that I got the chance to play. Let's keep moving. Robert Brown, Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Looking at the roster, you've got 5 players that had between 9 and 27 starts 2 years ago. How do you feel that experience is going to help after the year off? And the second question I have is, which of your younger players do you expect to make a leap this year?
So we have, let's see, 8 young guys that have never played a college basketball game, 5 freshmen, 3 sophomores. Also, I'll answer the second part first. And I do think all the freshmen are very good. The 2 sophomores, Matalako and Zach Martini, I think will help us out quite a bit this year. I love our experience. And I think the key for us, and I'd love to hear Jalen actually and Drew maybe address this, but I think the key for us is maintaining the togetherness of the group. I like our experience. We haven't played in a long time. That's not an excuse because no one cares. Our first opponent probably wants to kill us. But can we maintain a togetherness, which I think we have, because we have the experience, because of the 2 guys that you're looking at here, and the seniors, we have something unique that maybe some of the other teams in the league don't have. We were a very young team 2 years ago, the youngest in the league, and now we're old all of a sudden. That doesn't mean that we're going to be good. And these guys know that. It'll be because of them.
Thank you, Robert. Kyle, I believe you have another question. Let's go back to Kyle Franco from the Trentonian. Kyle?
Hey, sorry, jumping back in here. I have a question for Jalen. Jalen, what did you do during the year off to try and improve your game? And where did you think you could have got better off of what was a really good sophomore season?
I just tried to spend as much time in the gym as I could, just sharpening up on all the things I need to work on. And one of those things was definitely shooting and efficiency, as well as my leadership as well, especially coming into the senior role. And I know we have a lot of seniors on this team, but I think one of my areas for growth was being more of a vocal leader. And I think being back in this position and being back with the guys has really helped me with that. And just trying to think about what some of the seniors in the past have been like. We got two of them right here. So, but yeah, I think I'm just excited to play.
How do you approach the senior year, knowing one, it's your last year at Princeton, but also at the end, you kind of got, whether it's a chance to play somewhere else or go pro hanging out there?
I just think it being the last opportunity for all of us, I think it just shows how hard we have to go because we don't get another go at it. And regardless of whatever happens after this season, I'm not really thinking about that right now because it's here and it's us and it's all about Princeton basketball for this upcoming year. And I'm just ready to work.
Thanks, Jalen.
Thank you.
few more minutes left with the guys from Princeton. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. I'll ask Mitch first, and if the players follow up, because I think your perspective is interesting on this too. This is a year that on the calendar everybody had been looking at for years, where the schedule would change. You guys play a tough non-conference slate as you always do, but now having the elongated league part of the season. Mitch, we'll start with you. What's your approach? How do you feel this may be better, different than the tradition we've had?
So for us, I'm assuming you're going to get the same or similar answers from most of the coaches, but for us, it's very different, Dallin, because we were in exams after Christmas. So now we're back to this same schedule. I think the guys like it. You're done once you get to the Christmas break you're done, where we don't have exams hanging around. And then we don't have that 3-week break where we're kind of not doing a thing. The other teams are sort of playing their counterparts. I think this is going to provide more balance. Interesting that you've only got one game a week. Those are going to be some long weeks where you're really going to have to like each other and get along well. I like the balance that it creates potentially as I look at the travel schedules, where you could have a 4:00 game in Hanover and not get home at 4 a.m. and you get home at midnight. Although some of the travel schedules don't look great, but I do like that for the guys. But I don't know. I think it's I think it's going to go back like the schedule is. We all have the same schedule-ish, who can be really good on the road in the league and who can have really good training and preparation sessions during the week to sort of prepare for that next game.
Fellas, Drew, you can start.
I would say the first big thing with one game a week is just in terms of rest. We're going to get way more rest. We're going to be able to spend a little more time on scout. So I think those are two of the benefits of, one game a week schedule. And, that's going to, we're going to spend a lot more time throughout the week focusing, and it's still going to come down to the same things. Like Coach said, whoever can perform better on the road, but now it just gives us more time to prepare. So I think those are two big benefits of it. Yeah.
Jalen?
Yeah, I agree with everything Drew said. And with that one game a week schedule, it definitely will be a change for us. But I think it's all about who will adapt the best to it. And I think another benefit is not having to do that quick turnaround from Friday to Saturday. And we can spend a lot more time, like Drew said, on the scout and focusing in on one team per week. I think that will benefit us both offensively and defensively.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate your time. Good luck when you tip it up against Rutgers Camden on November 9th. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're transitioning to the final team, Yale. Again, if you had your hand raised, we will lower all hands. So if you have a question for Yale head coach James Jones or Azar Swain or Jalen Gabadon, please raise your hand now. And we will get you in the queue as we make the transition. And I see Coach Jones joins us heading into his 23rd year, 22nd season at the helm, second winningest coach all time in Ivy League history, and the two-time defending champs, the Yale Bulldogs. Coaches, we get Azar and Jalen on here. Just want to kind of start with your opening statement as you're getting ready to finally tip it up after 18 months off. I think Coach may be muted.
Yeah, that might be it. No, actually, you got me?
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, we're excited just like everybody else. It's been a long time in coming, and we're looking forward to the season. I will tell you this, the first few practices were rough. And after the last, 3 or 4, I see a path for us being successful, which is really good. And, it's just starting to build every day. And, watching film, going through practice, breaking things down and trying to get our guys thinking the way we like them to think and playing the way we'd like them to play. And, I think we'll get there. We have a lot of young guys in the program, which is a new thing for us, having 8 new faces and trying to get those guys to do what it is that and understand what Yale basketball is. But we're getting there, and we're looking forward to competing. And we go up against my brother's team at BU. We'll scrimmage them on Saturday, and we'll see if we can continue to try to play well against them and move on from there.
Good stuff. I might have to go see that scrimmage. I gotta see what's going on. Jalen, Azar, you just heard Coach mention, if you have a question, please hit the raise your hand function. as we have the Yale contingent here now, the final team in the league. How difficult is that leadership position when you have so many young faces to kind of show them what the culture of Yale basketball is all about? Jalen, please go first.
It's challenging, but at the same time, we've seen it firsthand ourselves. When we were young, a lot of the older guys really had to help us. And so, passing that down is part of some of the things that have helped make us good as a program. As Coach Jones always says, next man up. And so just helping them through that transition, it hasn't been as hard as it may seem, but we still have a long way to go.
Azar, anything to add?
No, I agree with Jalen. It's obviously coming back. Some guys haven't played in 18 months, but having those young guys and being able to lead, it's a great opportunity for the upperclassmen to kind of be in that position now and have the crown, I guess you may say, on the team. And we're trying to pass down everything that we've learned. We're fortunate enough to have great upperclassmen through the years and trying to pass that down. It's a culture thing.
If you have a question for Azar, Jalen, or Coach Jones, please use the raise your hand function. We'll start jumping into those now. William McCormick from the Yale Daily News, start us off. Thank you, Will.
Hey, Coach Jones, hope you're doing well. I was just curious, sort of, how was scheduling for the non-conference this year? I know it was already hard enough for you and several other mid-majors in the past. Did the pandemic and thinking about travel make that process more difficult this year?
Will, good to hear from you. It's been a while. I'm looking forward to you coming back in the office and, you're teaching me something, but I haven't seen you in a while. So
I'm looking forward to it too.
There you go. In any event, scheduling has been tough. When you're a mid-major and you're cited as being pretty good, it's always difficult to get games. And I certainly suspect that the pandemic and COVID and travel restrictions have, hurt us in terms of trying to get some games. It was just hard. All I know is hard. And we finally got a schedule here. I think we ended it in late August. We got everything together. We got our last game scheduled in late August. So it's always a challenge. And the pandemic certainly didn't help us.
Thank you, William. Again, if you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. We'll move forward. Jonathan Tannewall from Philadelphia Inquirer. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thanks, Dale. Hey, James, good to see you. It's been a while. Here we are in the NIL era, and it's a lot of opportunities for Ivy League athletes. Finally, it's been a long time coming, and we know that a lot of other, the non-athletes in the Ivy League have had these opportunities for a long time and made the most of them. And now the athletes get to do the same. And I wonder what you, and obviously the players, are welcome to answer this question as well as to what you all think.
Well, I'll start you off there. I think it's tremendous that our guys get an opportunity to benefit from who they are. I think the fact that Azar Swain's able to go out and run a basketball camp over the summer in some park in Boston, someplace, I think that's tremendous. And it's great for our guys to benefit from who they are and everyone else around the country. There aren't too many drawbacks on it if it's done the right way. And I certainly think that young men and women should be given this opportunity, and it's great for them.
Players, Azar, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a great opportunity. When it first was introduced, I think in July, there was a lot of excitement amongst, college athletes and stuff, but trying to find the fine line with policies and school and stuff. So it's been kind of like a transition a little bit in understanding those policies. But yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity. Like Coach Jones said, there's not many negatives to it when it's done properly and within the right guidelines. So, I mean, obviously you want to be yourself and benefit from that. So it's a great opportunity for guys.
Jalen, anything else?
I would agree with Azar and Coach Jones. I would also say, being an Ivy League student athlete and being around a lot of, student athletes at Yale, a lot of them have a lot of ambitions. A lot of people want to start different initiatives, businesses, et cetera. I think it's great that they're able to actually use their likeness to help promote those things and, to build on that, because that's one of the benefits of being at a, Ivy League school is, the name, the networking, And to be able to finally use that is going to be great for people.
No doubt about it. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. We will move on to Robert Brown from Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Coach. You obviously have lots of talent, lots of stars in the program year after year. But one of the key things is the guys who really do come out of nowhere, or I guess next man up mentality, as was mentioned earlier, someone like Eric Monroe. Who are you looking to make that leap this year?
Good to hear from you, Robert. I can't tell you there's one guy that I'm saying, well, oh, that's going to be the guy that's going to make the jump. I go to practice every day, and I've been impressed with just about everybody we have in the gym. So I'm going to hold off on who I'm going to select as being that next guy up for us, because we have a lot of guys that I think that are going to surprise some people. They surprise their teammates and our staff, and I'm really looking forward to playing in competition against someone else to see what we're like. And we're going to be able to do that over the course of the next couple of weekends. We have 2 scrimmages, and I'll have a much better thought on that question that you have down the road. But I suspect there'll be 2 or 3 guys that you really haven't heard of yet that jump up and really help us to be successful.
Thanks.
Again, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Coach, following up on that, and players, I want your perspective as well. In terms of, you're going to play the scrimmage against BU. You said 2 scrimmages coming up. Is this year, are they any more, are they all different or more important, or anything you may learn more in this year than past years, given the layoff? And players, just what's the level of like excitement or energy just to play against somebody else? Coach, please go first.
Yeah. I think it's different because we have so many new faces, Dallin. So there are, like I said, 8 guys in the program that I've never seen play in a game before. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of guys on my roster that I never saw play live until they got on campus, just because of COVID. There was no recruiting period that you couldn't see some guys play. So that being said, I think that it is important, maybe a little bit more important, to have some live competition outside of our practices. But our practices will show us a lot, right? Our practices will show us a lot what's going on. But when you lace them up before you play somebody else, it's a little bit of a different story. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. And that's the great thing about coaching, is what you learn from these interactions. This is why you play the games, because you want to learn about who you are in those kind of actions. Can you step up and do the same thing you're doing in practice when the lights are on and you're playing against somebody else?
Jalen, go first. What's it like for you to finally get to play against somebody else?
It's exciting, over the past 18 months, a lot of guys on the team have played a lot of basketball, right? But it doesn't come close to the intensity. And like Coach said, when the lights are on, like what it's like, I think even for the guys who play, like, it's a little bit of imposter syndrome when, you haven't touched the basketball on the court in 18 months, right? Like, you're like, am I actually as good as I think I am? With, all these things. So, being in live competition, just those first few minutes are going to be really great to be back out there and to get a feel for the game again. And, to see, because like Coach Jones says, we don't know the dynamic between a lot of things, right? Like it's been 18 months, there's new guys on the team. And so it's just exciting to be able to have an opportunity to go out there and compete.
Is there anything to add?
Yeah, I'd say the competition is the biggest thing. Guys were in their own respective places during COVID and the break. Personally, I'm home training. I don't really play against people when I'm home. So the competition is something that, I missed out on. I kind of been competing against myself a little bit in workouts, but, that's much different than a game. So I think a lot of people are just eager to get back out there. I'm definitely itching to just compete and kind of be in the mix of a game and feel that energy again. It's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, nothing like being back in the arena. In terms of asking a question, please raise your hand. We only have a couple more minutes with the guys from Yale. So if you want to ask a question, please use the raise your hand function. We're going to go back to William McCormick from the Yale Daily News. Go ahead, Will.
Hey, Azar, Jalen, we're just sort of curious. You both had sort of productive years off last year in your own ways. When it came to watching college basketball last year, was that something you tried to avoid because you couldn't be playing yourselves? Or did you find that it was nice to sort of watch other teams and other leagues play with a new sort of like student of the game perspective?
Jalen, you go first.
Oh,
Either one of you.
Yeah, so it was definitely frustrating, sitting on the sidelines, watching, because I fully believe, and everyone on the team believes, like we would be out there competing in the tournament, right? We fully have that expectation, and so it was frustrating, but at the same time, with the glass half full mentality is I did learn a lot watching, and studying other people, because when you're in season, you don't always have the opportunity to watch, some of the top teams play because you're focused on your own games. So, it was just a learning opportunity to watch and to get excited again, because I think our team's hungrier than we've ever been. And I think our expectation is just as high as it's ever been for where we expect to be at the end of this year.
Azar?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Repeat the question, Will.
I was just sort of wondering whether you watched college basketball
Okay,
last
okay.
year and sort of what you might have learned, or whether it was hard to watch.
Yeah. I personally did not watch that much college basketball. I don't know. It's kind of a mix of feeling like I should be out there, and seeing guys that obviously I follow a few close teams. I have friends that play in collegiately. I watched the tournament and stuff, but that wasn't like a main focus to like watch the other college basketball teams. I was really focused on myself. And I think a lot of guys on our team were. That was kind of where my mind was during the past year.
Thank you.
Again, raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Robert Brown, you're up next from Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead, Robert.
Coach, yesterday at the Big 12 Media Day, one of the coaches mentioned that they should have a tournament only for the high majors. I guess as a coach who has succeeded at the NCAA tournament and annually competes on the recruiting trail and on the court against high majors, I guess giving you an opportunity to defend the Ivy League and mid-major basketball.
Well, I got a smile on my face, Robert, because I saw that story too. Tommy Huggins is out of his mind. Like, come on, like really? You're just going to close the door on all of us? I think that teams like Yale going into the NCAA tournament and being successful makes the tournament what it is. I think that you would be missing out on a great opportunity if, in fact, that mid-major schools were not allowed, or somehow there's another tournament that didn't have us in it. I think that everyone wants a Cinderella story, and what's great about it is that we know we're not Cinderellas. I knew going into the NCAA tournament the last 2 years that we went in that we had a chance to win games, and we beat Baylor one time, and we lost to Duke in the second round by I think 7 points, and we lost to LSU by 5. So we had a great opportunity to win and be successful. And, we're only a mid-major just because of the league that we play in, not because of the product we put on the floor. So I think that that's a misnomer by a lot of people that don't understand us. And that's one of the reasons why we can't get games scheduled, because of who we are and what we've done. So some people recognize it, but not everybody.
Thanks.
Well said, Coach. Let's keep it moving. Richard Kent, Ivy Hoops Online. Go ahead, Richard.
How are you, James?
I'm well, Richard. How are you?
Good. James, what did you do in the offseason basketball-wise, and how, if at all, did that change your coaching philosophy?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have 2 stints with USA Basketball. I was in Puerto Rico with a Pro-Am team, and then I went to Latvia with the U19 team. And those were both tremendous experiences. And, I learned a lot from some other coaches that I was on staff with, so that was really good. So outside of those 2 basketball opportunities, unlike my man Azar Swain, I spent every moment I could watching college basketball and pro and European basketball online, just because I'm a junkie, and that's what I needed to do to have my time run properly. So I did a lot of that. I don't know how much I've changed as a coach. Our philosophy is obviously still what it is. I've gotten I've learned some new wrinkles here and there, but I think I'm still same old guy. But again, I have a more of a youthful energy about coaching now. Having that taken away from us for a year was very difficult. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be back in the gym with my guys and seeing their faces and working with them every day, even on our worst day, which today wasn't one of our best. But even on a day like today, it's just great to be in the gym and be around your guys.
Well, I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Azar, Jalen, Coach, good luck as you take on Vassar on November 9th. And to everybody for joining the Ivy League Media Hoops Conference here, Media Day. Appreciate your time and looking forward to rolling back out there. See you guys on November 9th. Thank you.
Dallin, thank you very much.